I sit there. So
We were like,
this name.
audio. I feel like I never sit in the right place.
Okay, so let's go ahead and call this council special session to order. We are in our council retreat part 2, and we're going to go ahead and open up with our video. Doug, you'll probably be able to watch it. Should be able to. We're gonna put it on the screen here. So,
You may not be able to see it at home, but
well, hopefully you'll be able to see it there.
so this is a preview of the final draft of the work for, it's a highlight of the riverfront projects, all of the projects. And something that Business Oregon helped fund, and it's gonna be, this is the 12-minute video. There'll also be a 3-minute video and then a 15-second plug. So this is a final draft, or not final draft, but it's still in draft form. So, but it's really close. We've been working for 4 months on it, I think, 4 or 5 months or longer. Yeah. I think you really, I know when I watch it, I feel good about the city and the place I live and work, and it's good stuff to kind of set the tone.
Yeah, and this will be the official unveiling for the folks not watching at home tonight will be next week's State of the City. Mr. Turner, you're gonna give an overview and then we're going to unveil it for our community. And at that point, it will be available on our website and various other places, so.
That's when we'll have the popcorn.
Yes, popcorn.
Do we get it from the theater?
Well,
Full screen.
The Columbia River was the lifeblood of this community for many, many years. It's attracted people here for centuries, and it still does today.
And in the Venmo where it has a star there.
The waterfront is the crown jewel of St. Helens. St. Helens was a paper mill town, but now that's past. The city is changing and the focus is changing.
that looks good.
I absolutely believe that St. Helens is a special place. The small town atmosphere here is just incredible. Life along the Columbia River is incredible. It's a very close-knit but welcoming community here.
It's beautiful, but it also provides a quality of life, and there's history and just a great place to live.
St. Helens has been a mill town, has a reputation for a mill town. This was known as the paycheck city, where people would come all over to come get their paycheck and work on the mill. That industry changed, went away. It's been sitting here underutilized for at least the last 20 years. The city actively went to pursue the property and acquire it and ensure its future for a positive outcome that benefited the public interest.
The city has been blocked off from the water for decades. There's been no public access, and here we are with people walking around and enjoying the water and the views. It's incredible.
So the significance of all that chain link fence coming down. I don't think you can go out there in a day and not see families and people walking their dogs on the waterfront. And it's exciting because we're bringing people back to downtown.
Push John's arm.
In our city, and there's a lot of people that don't know it. So we're trying to get a little more focus down.
Well, we're creating something that is bigger than that is going to be here for generations.
That soup.
That's
Yeah.
the element right there.
Projects at St. Helens waterfront are complex and transformative and provides the opportunity for the community to reimagine how it interacts with the river.
We are absolutely committed to including the community in these decisions. So that has included public forums to provide the opportunity for the citizens to ask questions and to give their points of view. These decisions are going to change the face of St. Helens for 100 years or more.
Good job, Patrick.
St. Helens has aspects of this that can be divided up, I think, into different categories there. See that with the pre-settlement with the natives that have lived here for many, many generations and called this area home. And then you see the sea captains coming in and the loggers and the mill workers and all of these mills and these larger industries that came in and employed hundreds and hundreds of people and encouraged people to come here to St. Helens and call this home. You look at old pictures and it was a busy place. There was lots of people. Later years, there were cars lining the street. Way back when, the Strand was the downtown area of St. Helens. And it's hard to picture that when you look at it today, but there used to be businesses that lined both sides of the Strand. St. Helens has had some downtimes after big heyday when lots of people were here and working and flourishing. It's safe to say we've been in kind of one of those quiet times now for a while. And so I'm optimistic that good things are coming in the future. This is going to continue to remain a great place to live and to raise a family and to find a job and work. That's true.
All the mills closed, and that's changed St. Helens because we have a large number of people moving in, and we have a large number of people who've been born and raised here. And I believe it's about 80% of our community works in the Portland metro area. So that piece, I think, is huge, the transitional change between St. Helens 30 years ago and St. Helens today. And it's exciting because this is a gem of the community. The location, we're right on the water, close to the ocean, close to the mountains. We've got the metro area right close to us. Who wouldn't want to be here?
There's a possibility of bringing the cohesion of those that are new to town and those that have lived here forever, because change isn't always bad. In fact, it's usually a good thing, but it's hard. So if we can meld those two worlds together, would be our biggest hope.
I can see St. Helens becoming really an exciting place to be. If you look at waterfront developments in other communities, that's the life center. And if you bring the life center down, then other businesses are happy to come here and locate here.
I think there's sometimes a feeling when you're about to have a big development, is something going to be taken away from me? Part of what we know through how main streets have survived in other parts of the country is that actually when we work together and we support each other, everyone benefits. The pie doesn't get smaller. There suddenly is just a lot more pie.
You're never going to have everybody agree on all aspects. As we have transparency and we understand the pros, the cons, the difference of opinions, the difference of perspectives, then we can agree as a city, as a team, that we're making the right choices, even though it may not be the choice that everybody agrees with. If there's justification and clarification behind why those decisions were made, it's much easier to accept as a community.
Even in 1950. We'll go.
When we engaged the community about 5 years ago, the most important thing we heard from them was that public access to the water was what they wanted to see on the site. And so the Riverwalk presents that opportunity to do just that. We want to design public access for people to get to and view the river.
This particular project is so critical for our city because it's the future. This is where we're going to connect the city with a brand new waterfront and Riverwalk project that's going to bring the community together to enjoy the amenities and the nature we have here in the city. Very exciting time for generations to come. So infrastructure really plays the role of the substructure for any potential future project, like utilities, streets, sidewalks.
That infrastructure piece means we can attract a private developer who can build housing and can build commercial properties and reinvigorate the site again with life.
The central waterfront happens to be a wastewater treatment plant. It's a lagoon. This is a more regulated site, and it's a lot of it complex when it comes for the property development. This is what you call a prime real estate, and we are currently working towards evaluation and the environmental factors. There is a lot of consideration that has to be taken in the design process and bring expertise to make sure we are in actual development area and safe environmental factors.
We do a lot of work with brownfields development because it brings together both the environmental concerns as well as the economic and community development opportunities.
This is what you call the missing piece of the puzzle. So once you have that in place, you have that connectivity that extends from the Riverwalk, Central Waterfront, all the way to the Industrial Business Park.
Listening is so important, and community engagement, and providing the community the opportunity to re-envision what that space looks like.
Around the same time that the city purchased the veneer site, they also made the decision to purchase the former mill site. And the goal was to diversify the industrial economy of St. Helens. So instead of one mill in operation, we hope to have multiple light manufacturing users and other industrial users on the site. We've got to have industrial growth to support a diverse economy for the city. And so by getting multiple industrial users, we don't have all of our eggs in one basket, and we can be a more resilient economy in the long run.
This development, as it comes, is going to bring a lot of civic pride if it's done properly, and a lot of civic joining together. Our 13 Nights on the River and our 4th of July thing and Halloween Town, and you look at it, I mean, we fill up the town. I mean, we fill up the town. It's not just kind of a bunch of people coming.
We have a wonderful community, and I think that's why so many of us come back to it. So forming something that we can leave our children is really important.
With this redevelopment effort, we've done a lot of community engagement, extensive involvement in the planning process, and it's really cultivated a sense of we can, you know, people do this together. It's really a community project. It's really heartwarming to see that many people that care about their community so much, and the connection to the water and the importance, and they really see this property as the future of St. Helens.
We have a beautiful blank slate right next to our existing downtown. We have a history, we have the waterfront, we have all of this amazing wildlife, and it's right here. It's right here and ready for us.
Let us know what you're thinking, what you're feeling about the waterfront. Please check out the city website and get yourself familiar with the waterfront redevelopment. It's wonderful. Take a look, get involved.
This is sort of how we do community and economic development in Oregon. We are a very collaborative state.
A project like this is not for the faint of heart, and the city is in a unique position that we can afford to be patient and get really focus and get it right. It's not about moving fast, it's about getting it right.
Again, it's not a mill town anymore, but it can be a riverfront town.
No greater place than St. Helens.
Very nice.
Nice.
And this is still a draft. We're still working to finalize it. We've got a couple
What, you just looking for your name up?
No, look for Aaron. Was Aaron's name spelled correctly?
No,
Salisbury?
we've got a couple of changes.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, I noticed
Yep,
her name was
yep.
misspelled, so, okay.
So, couple of things.
No, that's right.
And this goes live next week, State of the City, and will be widely available. And then I've already kind of made some cuts where being able to tell the story is really important, of course, and yeah, so we're working on those shorter versions, and we still have some cleanup and some credit work to do.
For President Morton, were you able to see it?
You're muted.
Oh yeah, you're muted right now.
Yeah, I saw it and I was very impressed. Way to go.
Yeah.
Tell them the story, really important.
Yes, yeah. All right, so I guess the next thing we'll do is we'll go straight, I'm gonna turn it over to Rachel and she's gonna go into our mission, which there's no better place to start than right there, because after seeing that, I know why.
No greater place.
I know why I'm still putting in sometimes endless hours trying to help out the community.
Yeah, and we can go into the PowerPoint. We've got it over there. So the purpose of tonight's meeting, this is a follow-up on the retreat we had back in November when we went through a SWOT analysis. This is a really critical piece. SWOT analyses feed into our strategic plan. Right now, staff has been working on our projects, bringing those forward in crafting the plan for the next 2 years. We've had many accomplishments. I did just want to kind of give a little overview of the cycle. We're going to do a quick overview. We're going to go through the SWOT analyses, also the community survey, and do a little bit of side-by-side from the last one. We'll then have a brief break. And I really want to focus on goal area 1, which is our effective organization area, and goal 2, the community engagement. We're hearing quite a lot about these areas and things we'd like to see. After the break, it's really going to be time for discussion and time for you all to set priorities as to how we go about living this, right? Providing quality, effective, and efficient services. I can recite it, but I will not. And it's
You usually do though.
I usually do. It is about a high quality of life, safe and healthy environment, and being open and responsive. And we'll see about that openness and responsiveness. Here, this is where the rubber hits the road. We have asked, and it is time for us to respond. Roles and plan development. You've seen this graphic before, mission, vision, values, and then strategic goals. Go into tactical objectives, our projects, and then how we implement that. You, as our governing body, you set our overall direction. You set our policy direction and make sure we have the resources to meet that. Staff, led by John, we are the ones who implement, manage the projects. We all evaluate, and the idea is that we all improve. Yay. We're not where that arrow is, but I like this. I like the cycle here because it is an ongoing cycle, right? We've done the environmental scan work. That's what we're going to be reviewing. Validating our mission, which holds true and is what we do every day. This is where we're in that step number 4, developing goals, strategies, and actions. So on we go. Here are the goals that we operate under. Set by you, implemented by staff. And I like this and I like the graphics because every bit of work I do, I can connect to these goals. Okay. Wanted to share with you a little bit of the community input survey. Crystal is working to beautify my documents and I appreciate professional communications staff. So there will be a public facing document from this year, also the comparisons to the 2020. We're heading towards a place of just being in a rhythm with this. The first survey was done in 2020 in the early part of the year. This one at the end of the year. We do the survey to inform the plan, which then informs the budget, right? So what do people like about living here? Our waterfront, our community, the small town feel, affordability. There are some little tiny words in there that say recreation programs and parks, location, but it's a visceral thing for us. And when you talk to your neighbors, when you ask them why they love our city, you're going to hear some of these same things. So it's nice that that's reflected back in the survey. So yes, why do we do this? Better understand what residents think, what they expect, and if they think we're heading in the right direction. And we use this in many ways. We use this internally for program level improvements. We use it to inform the budget, and the work that we're doing tonight, right? Setting our strategic direction. Really important to listen and feel heard, and we will see that. It was open for 6 weeks, October 4th through November 15th. Again, huge shout out to our professional communications staff. This went over 9 channels and relentlessly, in some cases, it was on social media. It was boosted. We took out paid ads. I harangued people in person. We had print versions. It is the press, like we really want to know. And we had about a 5% response rate. This is consistent with the last iteration of the survey. The numbers have increased by about 50 respondents. I hope to get more responses. It is quite long. But people yeah, I know, but we provide a lot of services. We really want to know.
Going over your numbers, I had some real problems with the population that answered.
Well,
I mean,
it wasn't up to me.
I'm talking about not what they said, but the people who surveyed, how representative they are of the whole city.
Okay.
The people who are eager to answer, not necessarily are people of the city, if you would. These are people who are eager to answer. Some of them professional answerers.
Potentially.
And when I take a look at, here's some of the information that came out from Portland State, the breakdown of ages and so on that answered this one versus this one is really, really different. That's what I'm saying. And this is always a problem with this type of survey.
Yeah, and we're always open to strategies on how to reach more people in different demographics.
It seems important to ask questions. I think I'd like if we could just run through the presentation and then do the discussion.
Yeah, but as I say, that's one of the things we'll discuss in great detail.
Yes, and I encourage you, like, the more outreach, the better on this, and I really want to hear more voices. I think we all want more voices in the conversation. Like the age of respondents, I was very surprised at how evenly this broke down. I'd love to get more younger voices or older.
I'm in that green slice right there.
Good job. Good job. I'm next. Well, and how do we reach more folks? How do we?
Yeah, that's tough.
It is. It really is. We offered prizes. Like I'm open to any ideas on this. Yeah, and then you'll see how long people have lived in St. Helens. We've got about half of the pie who've been here 21 years or more. But we do have some brand new neighbors and then folks who have lived here for various lengths of time. Yeah, and then just best describes the building that you lived in. We know from the way our community looks and the way we feel that we're very much single family detached housing community. Folks in attached like duplexes and apartments also responded, and these feel more proportional to the types of housing available. That is the point. I was happy to add that boat or RV. We got a little tiny couple respondents in that area. Yeah, just trying to reach folks. And then employment. We changed this up a little bit. That large blue piece of pie, working for pay locally or from home, right? In the past 2 years, you may have noticed some changes in commuting pattern. And also, as a nod to the respondents last time, there's this purple section, the folks who are raising a family and the folks who work very hard to keep it all together. These are some of our young families or folks caring for other relatives, but wanted that to be kind of called out and included. There are too many words on this slide. I apologize. I think the first bullet really says it, really solid job of delivering core services. A note on the ratings, the neutral responses. So many of these were on a 5-point Likert scale, which is the national standard. 5 being very satisfied, 1 being very dissatisfied. For those 3 people, the folks who rated themselves as a 3, neither satisfied or dissatisfied, you're real solid neutral folks. Those appear here with the positive. If you do not have negative feelings, that is great. Some folks do not come in contact with our services. For example, my interactions with the police, like I don't have many of them. Got a good solid neutral for me. So I just wanted to point that out. We've got some really high satisfaction and neutral feelings around services, customer service from the city, the value of our utility services. And on the next slide, we can go there. You'll see these are numbers for a municipal government. Developing the survey 2 years ago, I went and did quite a bit of research, GPS, direction finder, tools that are used across the country. And I did not come across satisfaction ratings like this, so this is really something to be very proud of. And I also gave a shout out to our water quality division. The highest rating for satisfaction came with the quality of sewer service. Flush the toilet and it works. Or you turn on the tap and clean water comes out. Like this is the core function of a city, and people recognize that and appreciate it.
So everything was up across the scale though from the last one.
Except for 1.
Yep. Public safety, and you'll see a couple of these over the course of the survey results where there's only 1 bar.
Well, yeah, we couldn't do copy with the cop when you get COVID. It would be COVID with the cop.
Thank you. Yes, the pandemic has changed some of our delivery and particularly the outreach and engagement pieces.
I don't think that'd be very popular. It may draw some national attention, but
Right.
might not be the right kind.
Probably not. I don't know if we'd be able to get a flyer for that, no. But just so many of these areas are up. We had a little dip on patrol, a tiniest dip on the overall satisfaction, but we've got about 90% of folks with no negative feelings about our public safety service.
It's a huge thing that we offer here at St. Helens.
It's huge. And our community supports this, and you support it to a point where we are recognizing this and building a new facility to maintain these high levels of service. Yeah, those 2 points, I know that probably sticks in his craw a little bit, down 2 points, but these are very high levels, and one doesn't generally interact with the police on their best day. So even more so.
Yeah, but see, that's run, I didn't have to interact with the police because my neighbor just got broken into and I don't have to be a witness. That's not interacting, and that's a plus. If you think of downtown Portland, you're a witness to what happened in your neighbors. It's contact with police, you're not doing anything wrong, but you really didn't want to have contact with them like that.
So this next one doesn't surprise me because they've been closed down for so long.
Yep, and this
That's
is.
clearly it.
You'll
And
see.
Margaret's doing a phenomenal job. Yeah.
Yeah, and this throughout the results, you'll see these, kind of in light of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Different
Isn't
changes.
that amazing?
Yes.
Amazing what a year and a half can do with the
Mhm.
pandemic.
Yep, and just to note, some of these service categories, were not on that 5-point scale. This was on an excellent, good, fair, or not applicable. So just something to keep in mind where you're like, what, they're only 40%, just keep in mind it's a bit of a different scale.
Well, and something else I wanted to note about the police is being able to read things online about follow-up that's happening. So that public outreach, people are like, oh, the police did get all those people that broke into the houses. Good job, police. Yeah, just word of mouth and knowing how the police handled things. So props to Crystal. Good job, Crystal.
Yeah.
That's the investment in communications.
Yes.
Really keeps the narrative going.
Yeah.
Again, if you take a look at Portland, what happened, I don't know, we've got a good background to judge against as compared to everybody does the same thing around here. That's not true, we do stand out.
Yeah, and the professional communication staff, I can't say enough great things about them. So yes, thinking about parks and trails, ability to find location, condition and maintenance of playground equipment, condition and maintenance of public spaces, and the overall ratings are all very high. We've had quite a lot of attention on our playgrounds and public spaces over the course of the pandemic and winning the Moda Assist Challenge with our beautiful new.
Another grant for Camp Park.
Yeah, and that all access play space is a big deal. And with the attention generated, a lot more folks were getting out there. We're getting there. So if you look at the frequency of visits there in that bottom left, you'll see, and the orange in all of these is 21. But that second line, those really frequent visitors, right, 21 times and over, there was a significant increase there. And Mr. Mayor, one of our favorite, how many city parks do you know of?
13.
There were 13. So people rate highly the ability to find a park location, but we're still coming in with people thinking there are 4 or 5 city parks. So here's a good opportunity. Here's a really good opportunity.
We have a lot of parks.
We do.
We do, and that's good.
So yeah, and here you'll again see some of the changes over the past 2 years, right? So the rentals were not a thing over the course of the pandemic. But what did we do? We pivoted and added outdoor activities, right? And these ranked very highly. These are the Nature Buddies, the Story Stroll, the Rec and Library partnership there. So just wanted to note that. So elected staff and leadership. If you look at some of the highest scoring areas, it is impressive. Like, I was humbled to get and view these results. People with positive feelings, these are the satisfied and neutral responses around the operations of programs and services. Around that very bottom one, responsiveness of staff to my needs. Like, this is a key community service indicator. And we also had some dramatic increases. I'm kind of hanging towards the bottom here, right? Informing residents, next one up, listening to residents, and then opportunities to participate in government. These are the places we showed huge gains. Not all sunshine, right? Some of our lowest marks come around managing and planning for growth. We took a dip in that overall direction of the city. But did show some gains in promoting the economic health and support for business. So this is about the shifting priorities over the past couple of years. It's also about how we communicate.
One of the things on the last slide, if you go back one that stood out to me is on the rec program is the activity, enrollment, registration, how much of an increase we could just continually see from the community groups coming in and piling in and saying, city, you have the capacity now, you run it. I mean, you organize it. That's too much for us. And if you look, chosen surveys.
Yeah, especially with the partnerships with the school, so continue to grow.
School programs, the
It's really, there's a lot, the story of partnership is woven all through here, and that's a really great
And I
example.
think the overall direction's always a struggle. People don't understand that they're not looking at our website. They want to be informed it's tough to get that information out there, so.
No
When
joke.
you got everything else going on, you got Crystal doing her job 24/7, a part-time helper to push our messages out there. You know, it can be tough. And so we've always had this issue here in St. Helens, and I don't know how we go about getting that turned around.
My newspaper doesn't help.
Been through 3 different other council members, and it's always been this way, so. And it was this way when I came in, or immediately when I came in. Of course, that's why I ran. I thought, Randy didn't give me enough of his time. That's the only reason I ran. He did a good job, other than he wasn't in the public enough.
I would say, as I've traveled around the country, this city doesn't communicate. Other cities just kind of do. It's been a tradition. Our city has not been a tradition. That's the word.
And so what happened? So we made investments in communication.
We've got to come up with a different way of doing it. We've been trying to do a better job of the same old thing, which doesn't work. I mean, we got to come up with, you drag people out and hit them twice in the front, okay, you ain't gonna listen to me or something, but assuming that the electronic or the newspaper or the usual method of getting to the people doesn't seem to click. And these people go in their door and lock the door and don't know what's happening on the street. And we're a small town, that's the other thing.
Hang on to this for part 2. We're gonna talk quite a bit about community engagement.
Yeah, we are in our
Yeah.
new goals.
Yeah, and Kathy, if you wanna, so I feel like this is kind of what I just said. Is it there in your packet? So, and this is, how often do you use the following source for information, right? We wanted to get at how we're communicating with people, how we can do a better job. You'll see on the left are the sources folks use most frequently. I'm impressed that people go to our website and check the city website for information. This is huge because there is good information there, it's. Word of mouth, I feel like is something that just as humans that we all use that source for information, right? But that information can be of various qualities. But we pay really close attention to this, and this really informs the way we share the survey, the way that we communicate news or follow up on car break-ins or whatever it may be. And I'm happy to see that our local newspapers are still really valuable and folks really rely on our media partners out there for news and information. So greatest challenges facing our city in the next 10 years. And I think if each of us asked our neighbors, we would hear a lot of these themes echoed back, right? Actions, so this is one piece of the environmental scan information. Opportunities across all of our goal areas. And that is kind of the high level survey. As I said, thanks to our professional communications team, we will have a report that will go on our website. There's always more information available. If you'd like to drill down in any particular areas after you've read through the full report, let me know.
Did we allow for comments on the survey?
We did.
Where can I read those comments?
I will happily send them to you. Note about comments, always.
I'm sure there's.
Yeah.
I'm bracing myself for it, but I also
Yeah.
think sometimes there's some really good thoughts in there that people are hoping to articulate to us.
Yes, yes.
One of the things people hear is somebody says they'll fight off a grizzly bear, but to publicly make a comment, they won't. This is very much more in this city than I've seen any other place.
Yeah, and just the more avenues we can provide for comments, or if folks needed follow-up, like I dig through those and follow up and try and answer questions or direct those appropriately. Take all comments with a couple grains, you know?
Yes, and I mean, with COVID, it's, I mean, I know Council Berkeley's talked about, coffee with the counselor, stuff like that. With COVID, it's kind of hard to do these things, There was also maybe a fireside meeting every other month, just kind of a community meeting, fire off in the spring and go through the fall, and then you had 2 or 3 of those, and
Rick, we don't need a fireside meeting. Tailgate. To a tailgate beer fest, they'll come. To a fireside maybe.
well, if you say free beer, you'll have a lot of people coming.
Well, if you can get them there.
This is a question of resource allocation.
I can see a protest on that one, but that's one, I mean, what glues this town together traditionally? They used to have the J.C.'s in the street dance way back when, I'm told. I wasn't here then. And there used to be some things that people just kind of went to. Wasn't a big deal, but everybody got there. And we're missing that.
Well, I think people just aren't engaged civically like they used to be. They're just not.
Yeah.
I mean, they're
How
just
do we get
not.
them?
It's, hey, to my boy, 21, do you want to go? No, I want to sit here. I'm playing my computer. I just, where we're at, I don't know. I mean, I'm just using, that's a real comment. That's really what transpires in the Scholl family.
Can we buy time on the cable company and have it turn it off for 2 hours?
That's why I think social media is so important, and I think
Yeah.
Crystal's really taking us in a direction with that's.
Yeah, and we need to be really involved, to get that younger crowd, because they're not on Facebook. They're like, I don't know, you do short videos for TikTok or what?
TikTok,
Or,
yeah.
I don't know, Instagram, yeah.
Well, I sure think that can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I certainly think that our service groups are essential when it comes to community engagement and community involvement. Take, for example, the Kiwanis Parade. And what that does for a lot of our citizens, for young and old alike, all the way from the Chamber Building, all the way down to the Klondike is many times, if the weather's fine, is packed with people. And activities spring from that. And one of the things that I think that the city can do is, and our individuals can help with anything that we can do in doing that, especially being involved. I know the mayor drives the old fire truck, and that's those kinds of things don't seem too important, but you hear a lot of people talking about, oh, the mayor was in what year was that, Doug? What year was that fire truck made? When was that one of ours? And it spurs on questions about our city. And I think that those kinds of things are important. The more we can enhance and encourage our service groups to get involved in community engagement, I think the more effective and the more stakeholders that will get within our city. Anyway, that's my point of view.
Hey, Doug,
Yes.
the parade. How come the high school band isn't in it? That seems to always be a big in. How come our high school band isn't in that parade?
Probably a bit of a breakdown in communication and looking forward and getting involved with the school system. I think since we have become partners with the school system, I think that we're going to find some differences with that. I think that things are going to open up a lot more. And hopefully we have a better communication from our service groups into the school district, and the city can help with that as well. And I just think that, and that's a good point. I think that there's a few things that are missing and in that piece, and they're easy. I think they're easy fixes, especially if we have a superintendent like we have, who is with our education system, who wants to be involved and has a passion for this city as well. So I think that's what it takes. And I'm not quite certain why parade organizers in Kiwanis haven't reached out to the band director and at the high school. I'm not certain. I can't answer that, Mr. Topaz.
Yeah, and we'll put this on after the break too. The Kiwanis, I was able to attend their meeting last week, maybe recently, but their parade committee is just forming. If you would like to be involved, they're looking for volunteers.
They're always looking for volunteers.
I would definitely like to see the city, have a strong place in the parade, especially when it comes back, because when it comes back, it's gonna draw in a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely we driving the 1920? Is it a 1920 Mack or is it 1940?
I think it's 30s.
Is it 1930s Mack truck? It's clean drive. Big sprockets on the back.
Don't even need a clutch, do you, Mayor?
You need a clutch and you're right cramps at the end of that. At the end of that.
Parade driving stuff, yeah. Yeah. So the other bit of the environmental scan that we all took part in were the strength, weakness, opportunity, and challenge exercises. We conducted one with this group with council, and our management team also conducted one. Here, Counselor Morton. Yeah, okay. Would you like us to, Counselor Morton, should we email you these documents or would you like to share it on screen? Maybe let's share it on screen. We might spark some conversation.
Okay, that'd be fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
So yeah, I mean, we know from ours, council communications on our weakness, we pretty much talked a little bit about that.
Yeah.
I think if we were to maybe, even though it's not starting with strengths, we're trying to end that. So what more can we do? I mean, we put out a Citizens Day and we had plenty of food there and we had an opening of a park and we actually had better numbers 2 years ago than we had at this one. So I don't know what we're not doing and we advertise the heck out of it, who doesn't want a free burger and, and a Moda Assist down there was advertised and.
And here, let this one and the management team kind of. So we're gonna review these and then take a break. We're then gonna come back and talk about that effective organization bit. And we can talk about staff and council, and then we're gonna talk about community engagement. So really, if there are things that strike you right here, I'm thinking about culture change and how that relates to community engagement and people using social media and not coming out to the dance or whatever it is, you know what I mean? So let's use these to really inform the conversation after the break, right? And some of these are underway. The strength of our safe city, this is borne out in the survey. It has led to an investment and a commitment to a new public safety facility. You think about job creation and you think about the work that's going on all of our riverfront properties. And the investment, right? If you look at that, the threat of misinformation, is this a great opportunity to double down on communications? Maybe. Have we come really far? But yeah, so this was the council one that you all participated in. We did the same exercise with the management team. Yeah, we can share that because she is talented and wonderful.
She put the pressure on you. It's not your fault, Kathy.
Yeah,
Really
there you
not your fault.
and it's all with multiple screens too. It's hard.
That drove me nuts in the classroom.
There it is.
Multiple screens.
Where'd it go? Yeah. Good God, where'd it go?
So here's what your professional staff sees as our SWAC, right? We feel strongly about that, the partnership, and see our relationships as a great strength and see opportunities for stronger technology to increase community trust. Yeah, maybe that goal too, right? Weaknesses, we've got facilities up there. And that on there. I think that some of it relates to City Hall. When we want to staff up, we have trouble making space for them.
Okay.
Parts of this building are not ADA compliant. We did a lot of work to this building and still kind of face some of these challenges. I hear from the library staff that they don't have storage. Love the facility for so many reasons, but there are also drawbacks.
You know, one
There,
thing this building
and
needs,
PD, of course, we're addressing.
Okay.
PD.
I didn't realize that facilities was such a issue with staff, so it's interesting. You know,
this building needs one real thing. It needs a mayor's office.
So, I don't.
It's gonna be ceremonial, agreed, but there ought to be a room that says mayor's office, otherwise you might as well work out of a tent. It adds one more step to us as a city being professional. We have a mayor's office.
I know, I appreciate that, I do. There's a lot of cities that I talk to though, that they don't, their mayors don't have offices either.
I know.
Because I said I have an office and they're like, there's actually some bigger cities that the mayor doesn't have an office.
We're
too.
trying to lead the pack.
So.
The EE.
Employees.
And then obviously, I mean, we see the store at the top with council dynamics, that is a big issue for staff, so.
Yep.
It's important for us to be aware of. I mean, we're aware of the dynamic ourselves as an area of growth, but.
Yeah, and that's. I don't have any more discussion now, or John, you wanna chime in here on some of these?
Well, I would say the facilities is, the public safety facilities is gonna relieve a lot of opportunity if
Absolutely.
we have
We move our courts and our chambers over there.
moving those physical
Yes.
spaces over there, there's more capacity. This side over here with the building next door to stand into basically.
Yeah, but and after the break, it's gonna be a hard conversation. We need to talk about council dynamics.
Yeah.
So so everyone get cookies. It'll be fun. But I think that in goal area 1 and 2, we can address quite a bit of this and make some solid action plans for the next couple of years to move us forward. Other questions, comments? Councilor Morton, you still out there?
Yes.
Okay.
The fire's crackling.
Sounds nice.
So yeah, and I think that this is a good place, if no one has any questions, to take about like a
10-minute break.
10-minute break?
Oh, 10 minutes.
10-minute by that clock. We'll come back at 6:35. How's that sound?
Sure.
Okay.
as compared to
It's
a
not
lot of
that much
places.
different than all places, but
Well, around here, I was surprised how high the rental of single-family homes are. And the other thing that's peculiar around here is a family owns 3 or 4 of these homes.
So I'd like to dive right.
A lot of the, say, self,
There's a little handy handout that I'm gonna need to email for.
Handy handout?
Handy handout.
bank statement builders, you know, the investment, I invest by buying little houses and rent.
So,
I think we might see those numbers change actually, because it's harder to find a rental than it is to buy a house right now.
Yep.
So,
rents are higher than.
yes, exactly. So that, we might see some changes in that.
As I say, that again is a perspective of where the town is going. That's something also I noticed that is skewed.
Well, you gotta also look at the medium income. Can people that live here afford to buy houses? Can they afford to buy multiple houses, you know? That's not typically.
But old people can. I mean, and we've heard that a couple of times here. A guy was saying, well, I bought 3 houses up a Nob Hill for my kids. He doesn't need a job worrying about that. He's at the end of his employment system, if you would.
Okay, so we ready, Rachel? So,
So, and Counselor Morton, my apologies, we will have a sheet to share in just a moment for you. We're reviewing the goal 1 and goal 2 plan areas. What I did, I took the last plan. So we're gonna review. Yay. What happened in our last plan? And items still to be done. And then we've been hearing a lot from all of you from the survey. I've tried to distill some of the key items and put those in the second section for action. This is really your time to talk these through, council. I am not the most legible in handwriting, but I got the chart and I'm not afraid to use it. So if there are things that need to go for a different goal area, we can certainly create a parking lot. Or if there are things that do not appear here that you would like to address, please keep in mind, everything draws resources, right? We need to allocate. If you select something for action, you want to make it a priority for the next 2 years. There are resources that go with activities.
well, I see one that I just want to talk to John a little bit about would be, you know, a couple of them here would be for the management team on the cone at the top of the council. You know, also the threat, you know, council dynamics, because I think those are both the same, one and the same, in my opinion. And, you know, I'm open for constructive criticism if it merits it, and would like to know what kind of was, you know, you sit with your whole group here and do the SWOT.
Yeah, I've talked about that on and off over the last few years, just about how the come at the top, it's super important, and the staff is looking at you, community is looking at you to set that policy and direction. That's a sense of stability and you just don't have it. I mean, it's just not at the meetings. It consistently goes off the rails and pitch and arguing, and it's become theater of sorts, and it's really hard to just need to be committed to trying to improve that relationship. And there's resources out there. There's people that can come in and talk to us, but there has to be a willingness to want that to happen. You know.
Well, I definitely want willingness for that to happen. I think it comes back to our weakness too that we identified is council communication. Everybody's so scared because of ethics and that we can actually talk to one another, you know, it's okay to talk to one another, but we're also in such fear over everything that, you know, it's flat out ridiculous. And, you know, we did have a little bit of a retreat on that, you know, just what we could and couldn't do. But I still don't think that drove home that hard. That we should be discussing city matters outside of this place. We should be concerned about what's going on in our community. And we don't do that. We just simply don't do it.
And then when we get here, we all fly off the handles. and-
Yes, yep. We'd be serving everybody better if we actually communicated amongst ourselves a lot better.
One of the things we don't have is a target.
Yeah, wait. I'm not done, okay? Please just at least respect each individual at this council retreat. So, you know, I know for myself, I could do a better job of reaching out and, we've talked about doing lunch, we definitely should. And I think when we hear these things that pop up in our community, we should definitely be talking about what's going on. And if we are concerned about something coming up on the agenda, we can discuss it all we want. We're not making decisions. It's perfectly okay. And if we have to bring in another on a retreat on what we can do, because that's how legislation works, they discuss ideas. They may even have a pretty good idea of where they're going, but they do not make that decision until it's called to a vote. So we need to be better at communicating. And I think that is really what's going on here is, you know, bombs get dropped sometimes, you know, and then it's like all of a sudden, it's the craziest thing and the meetings go off the rails like they do. And we're not unique in that sense. It happens. You can watch other council meetings. But if we're constantly, you know, if I don't know where you're at and all of a sudden I haven't discussed with you some feeling, I even have personal feeling about a thing, it wants to come out sideways, right? And that's not okay in our council meeting. We should have done that off to the side and said, okay, well, at least I know where you stand now, right? Instead of right in our meetings. So I think that's where we can do a lot better job, which will definitely trickle down into our staff. And I'm committed to doing it. And I know, I don't do a very good job of it. I can state that too.
And so I put up here, right, trying to get at this, that professional development training, sure. But I think some targeted workshops, right, the targeted briefing on serial meetings is like, that's an actionable thing that I can try and do, right? It's really for you to take it from there, right? Figure out what conduct is all right under Oregon public meeting law and a way to do this, you know, or thinking about some boards where like the president will call and check in with each board member. Or some other way to get to this. I think some of you that attended the PSU new counselor training, one of I remember the points so saliently, it was like, never, you know, try for no surprises, never surprise your fellow counselors. Be prepared for surprises.
Yes.
But always try and give a heads up if you've got something that's really burning and that's gonna come out in a particular way, you know?
Can I bring something up right now? I interrupted Rick a minute ago. He says, no, I'm talking. So Topaz was quiet. Okay, Rick got done and the baton wasn't passed to Topaz to say what he was saying. We have this habit of putting people back and not allowing them in a courteous way. We just do it automatically. The one thing this council does not have, and the city doesn't, we do not have a master plan. What is our end goal? We all have kind of goals that we change priorities on. And a lot of our arguments, because we don't have a single target that we're trying to get to. Some of the ball field is bumpy out here and trying to push what people have told us they want gets us in a lot of trouble. Now, I came from the New England Mud meeting where I could interrupt him. He isn't going to get mad at me. He's going to disagree with me and yell at me. And we keep going. Here, as you say, it goes off the rails. And the formality of everything being put on agendas and set up ahead of time kills a good meeting. And a number of times I've tried to get things on agendas and it's been cut off. So I've given up on that.
I think this is an important point, though, that you bring up, that like the single target or vision.
Well, and to further that, because, you know, I mean, a mud meeting, I don't know what a mud meeting is. I don't, you know, I have no idea what a mud meeting is.
It's a council meeting in New England.
So what I can say is that we shouldn't yell at each other in a meeting personally. It's not very professional, and that's what we're trying to avoid, but you're saying we should allow it. You know, we should be just okay with that's the status quo. Is what you said.
No, it's never
When
a status
When
quo.
Rachel went after me, she was actually given, what I heard was a solution to a problem, a little bit of an insight to a person who's been in government for quite some time. So I'm gonna respect and wanna listen to her, and she was just following up on what I had to say. She wasn't, your term was coming up. But did you hear the solution that she was giving us? Did you?
Yeah, but I disagree. See, that's the problem. I want to disagree, and just because it's been done someplace before.
So again, the tone at the top with Rachel, who's a professional, who's been doing this at Salem, and we've hired her to be our government affairs. I don't know where to go with that comment.
Can I pick that thing apart?
I'm struggling here.
Okay, one of the things you just said was Rachel has more power than Topaz or you because she's been in government. Wait a minute, that's what you said. I'm to respect exactly what she said because she's been in government. I want the right to disagree with her, whether she's been in government or not. And this is his ongoing business.
So I think what we're talking about, and I think your point is about, we don't have a target, no direction, no master plan. It's really about a shared vision.
Right.
And, in previous jobs I've worked on, not only, and I think we've done I'll just push back on that a little bit to say that the work we've done with strategic plans, the work we've done on the waterfront is all to push a list of very tangible things that we can check off the list to say, well, these are the things we're doing, we can see it. Those are hard physical kinds of things. Having a community vision and a community master plan, not just a city master plan, is some, I worked on a community master plan in my last community, in a smaller community, but we had this school district at the table and the fire department and all of the community partners we came up with this plan and it really looked a lot like the plans we have now, this kind of the shared goals, the public safety is really important, economic development is really important, all of those things. And that would be quite an undertaking here, and wouldn't shy away from doing something like that. But at the end of the day, it's about a shared vision and the process bits about how we communicate and get along or not get along or respectfully disagree or what the legal limits that are around. Ethics and things of that nature are all real. We need to understand those and be respectful. It's, serial meetings, but I think we've used physical projects, the waterfront. It's huge, it's transformational. It's going to set the future of our community. It's bigger than all of the quibbling that goes on at the council level. We really try to, at least at the staff level, we're trying to find the prize. This is future.
So I appreciate that. I guess the question is, in Councilor Topaz, in my mind, when we have these goals, why? I mean, that's, so I guess I'm not quite understanding when you say a master plan, what you mean by that beyond what we have here with our goals. Granted, these goals are only 2 years, for 2 years what we're going on, but we do have, as John just said, a number of these projects which are going to last 5, 10, maybe a next couple of decades that so I guess I've just, when you say strategic, a single target and vision, I'm not quite, I don't know what you mean by that.
Okay, one of the things all of the things John talked about are pieces, not part of a major plan.
Right.
They can be put in the plan, but right now they're not. And one of the things you can design, we'll say the whole assembly and break it into pieces, or you can make a bunch of pieces and try to fit them together. You gotta know either case what the end is. It's a lot easier to start with a major plan and break it into pieces. And sometimes we get so enthralled with the pieces, we forget it's only a piece. And if the piece doesn't fit to the next piece, you get in trouble. So having a bunch of pieces is not a plan. It's a bunch of pieces.
So, sure.
Councilor Topaz, Councilor Morton, and one of the things that I think you're alluding to is maybe timelines and would these plans deal with timelines? Are they 20 years out? Well, Councilor Topaz, sometimes we can think in 50 years out, and it doesn't have a lot of relevance to what our plan is for this year. And I think we've got to really kind of pull back and think about this, that any kinds of things that we're dealing with in terms of planning or whatever is when those individual plans end, and what does it have to do with this year? And so, I'm focused in on 2022 at this time, and what we're going to set up for 2022. And to me, that's the master plan right there for this year. And the brainstorming for other kinds of issues in the future need to be kind of identified as that. And I think we get convoluted on that. So in many senses, I agree with what you're saying, but we're all over the map in terms of how our goals will fit into certain projects. I think we have a good general overlay for how we function. And that's the most important thing, especially for me, in 2022, is the here and the now. So I agree with what your insight of saying that we get kind of convoluted in going one direction or another, and we just need to be reeled in for what's happening now and what's happening on our agendas for each of our work session meetings that we can deal with. So that's my input.
My counter thing to that is that's the road to disaster. Let's say we get the waterfront done this year, and we already have a plan in place for the connector section for roads, which was designed so it only brings 3 cars an hour into the waterfront. We've got to have the waterfront and the connector plan designed together. Now,
exactly.
Okay, but this year is the waterfront, but we've got to have the total target of all the designs of the waterfront, the industrial park that's going to be used in the connector plan, and how much traffic the waterfront's going to get. It's got to be in one plan, and some of that's going to take 25 years out. This year, we're going to be working on this piece, but we've got to have indicated how the 3 pieces fit, even before we get started, and we're not. We build pieces, and we hope the other thing will be able to fit into it. Now, we can have a waterfront and the connector plan, and then all of a sudden decide we got to do something to the connector plan because the industrial site plan.
Can I try and capture something around like longer range?
That's right.
planning, or like the coherence of
That's what I'm pushing.
maybe longer
Been any times.
range? Councilor Tilton?
One of the things I know that we're lacking, this is gonna be a little off the topic here, as the council, is just communication with each other is a huge problem for us. I mean, we can't even get through a meeting without somebody getting offended and then somebody yelling, and I mean, I might be new to this, so I don't know what's normal, but it doesn't feel like it's, the way it should be happening. And I was really looking forward to going to the League of Oregon Cities this year and talking with other council people about what their council experience is like and getting an idea of what is like a good functioning council and what's not and what's normal and what is just some of the stuff we're gonna have to deal with. But I didn't get that, unfortunately. So it would be helpful to me to hear from other like cities and governments and maybe like just get an idea of
Your support, can I write some your support of this? No, seriously, this is a true.
It's true though, because we don't really know. I mean, Counselor Berkeley, and I know Counselor Berkeley had said in on a lot of city council meetings previous to him, you know, jumping in this, but I think that it would be helpful to know, you know, what other people experience.
Yeah, I think a big part, and I will say this, and I know this to be true, you can probably even Google it. Google a counselor coming in on an agenda or multiple agendas. Isn't that ever good? Just ask Google that and you'll probably see a gazillion responses. No, it's not. And I have asked and I have tried to work through this. And I have worked diligently trying to be the best mayor I can. But when you have one counselor particularly who came in on an agenda and wants to continue to trash anything staff and in council is doing, most of the time, that is what we have going on here. And I'm gonna call a spade a spade. And that's exactly what you've done. And it's very frustrating and I'm ready to move on. I'm not gonna surrender because I'm here serving the citizens.
Do you realize that you're wrong?
I would.
Okay.
I'm wrong. You brought up a whole slew in our last meeting.
Yes, I did.
Of stuff, complaints that.
That's correct.
Your agenda, you didn't even reference anything about a staff. You referenced your agenda at the last meeting. I know this needs to be said.
I was gonna say, we're doing family therapy or couples counseling, I would allow this.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't allow it.
It needs to absolutely be said.
Good
It
show.
absolutely needs to be said, Councilor Topaz, that if you look back at what you said at that meeting, is the whole reason why you ran as a counselor was to destroy because you were upset about those agenda items that you discussed. You did not discuss your relationship with staff. You discussed your relationship with other counselors, old council members, like clear back in Peterson age, and what had been done to you in your property. And that's all
neighbor's property too.
It was you. That was it. Not about any one of these staff members. In just our last meeting, you're on the record.
Yep.
I gave you an olive branch saying, would you like to?
No, he didn't give an olive, he gave a bribe.
No. Oh, apparently that was a bribe, Doug.
Yeah, if I agreed with what he said, he'd vote for me. That's a bribe.
Council President, that was a bribe because you just asked him if you'd like to, make a few comments on.
No, that isn't what he said. He wanted me to apologize to the whole thing.
So
if you don't get it straight, I'm gonna argue with you.
So I'm grateful that this is actually happening right now because it needed to be said. And you cannot even acknowledge that it's even true. And it's evidently clear to me, okay? It's 100% clear to me that that's all you're doing and that's all you have been doing. We always have a problem. The staff has worked diligently on a gateway, a river corridor coming in, a gateway going out, and this right down here, this downtown area. And you're saying that they don't have a master plan. You're talking about some truck route. What if? Well, what if always can play a role in anything? We adjust, we adapt, we deal with it as it comes to our plate. We don't worry about and nitpick all the very small little items to death to make everybody just get distracted from the big whole beautiful project behind you, which is our waterfront. We had a beautiful video on it. We've got an opportunity to do great and wonderful things, but you don't want to. You never have. I've tried to talk to him. All those relationship things, I've actually tried with this gentleman a number of times outside of this place, a number. And you continue to disrespect the citizens we represent by not suiting up, showing up, and getting involved. and bring in something productive. You are failing at your job as a counselor. There,
Can I
now I
speak?
said what I need
Can
to
I
say.
speak? Can I speak? Okay, one of the things that I've been trying to do, and the waterfront part, is you're playing too small. I would really like to enlarge the waterfront by about 5 times easily. And there are features for a number of reasons that aren't in it that should be in it. Now, I've been in long-term planning for, I'm older than, I could be your father as far as my age.
You could.
And I've been in industry with long-term, I've been in the federal government planning long-term. So some of the things I'm telling you are what I'm gonna call boilerplate, and you keep telling me I'm wrong and trying to be obstructive. So I'm giving you advice that I've had experience at, and you tell me that I'm not trying to help our community. How many of you people have dealt with Washington DC NIH plans or Roche Medical plans? That's one of those 500 level companies, or Abbott long distance plans. You people are always undercutting what you can do. And when you say, hey, you shouldn't do that, you should do this, or should have the opportunity to do this if it happens, and you yell at me. And like, I'm not gonna get, changed way. And then when I have people, and I've had presidents of companies I've told that they were wrong. Did I upset them? Probably did. But they were wrong, and my job was, because I was one of the few people that had the correct data, to tell them. And I do. And they hire me back to keep doing that to them. You don't. If something isn't agreed around here, it's obstructive. It's not an opinion, it's an obstruction. We are not treating our people, like some of the people I'm talking to are, they want me to do this. But I'm not talking to your people, maybe I am talking to your people. So we don't have a free discussion. Whether you like it or not, it should be allowed, but you don't want it allowed. If I'm wrong, you should be able to trump my wrongness with your correctness, not just because you want to. So when you get into discussions, you can't have authority. You have to have correctness.
I'm not taking it personally. You're not Trump, you're not disregarding my ideas. I'm not the smartest person in the room, Councilor Topaz, and I don't claim to be. And I just gotta say one last thing is that the city staff, are you reading this?
I read that.
Okay, does that affect you in any way, shape, or form? It does.
It does. I would have fired some of those people that I've upset.
That's all you want to do is fire them because they upset you.
No, they did things wrong.
You're very professional. And what I can say is just this, and it's a simple fact. If you're so talented, why have you been hanging out in St. Helens, Oregon for the last 12 years if you have all these abilities to be at Washington? You state you have a propeller that you can make millions of dollars on a patent, and you failed to follow through with it, obviously. Why?
Okay, no low
No,
blows,
I
no
mean,
low
I
blows.
know, but it just shocks me. I'm out there trying to do good for the community. I'm trying to help our community, our citizens along.
Observation.
Well, hang on, I want to bring this section to a close. I'm hearing a lot of stuff. And I hear that you two got some work to do. I defer to your professional expertise down there, but
So there's a difference when I run a meeting and I try to do it professionally, and I'm not allowed to do it. He's in my way. He is taking my job away from me. He does it consistently. And that's why I'm so frustrated. You counselors don't understand when you're up there and you're trying to manage a meeting, you're trying to make it go. And he likes to smirk and comment and bait me, and has been doing this long before you guys were here. Okay?
But do you feel like maybe this is the solution to your problem?
No,
Handling it this way?
what
I'm not calling you out, I'm just saying.
No, what I feel is that you're talking about why, see, look at him, he's
Well, I
one.
know, because he knows he's gonna press your buttons.
Yep.
You can't
So
let
what
that
I can
happen.
say, Jessica, is that this is the answer because he continues to disrupt the meeting.
But the answer just, then it disrupts the meeting even more, because then now our leader
Yep.
is now off on a tangent, and is being
Okay, so
provoked by a counselor.
what can you do? What can you do? Because you're on this body to help me in this role, because I'm struggling with it. So you both give me solutions on how we can, when these bombs are dropped, not react. I'm listening. I'm open. I don't have to have all the answers. So.
May I tell you why I'm laughing?
Counselor Berkeley?
Go.
No, I would say, I too feel frustrated when I think that comments or direct are brought in that take us off track. Efficiency. The parts that really bother me, Mayor, is I think the line is when in a public setting, staff are being undermined. That I think deserves intervention to
Nobody
stop.
should feel, fired is not a strong word from a counselor.
So I'm saying is, Mayor, is that, but then, I guess if there, because as Jessica had said, kind of what the dynamic seems is even though it wastes our time, is to let Counselor Topaz for a while,
Have a blood meeting?
ramble, well, it becomes, so Mayor.
He's controlling it.
That represents himself though. When you jump in, then it represents you. So you see what I'm saying?
Easier said than done when you're running the meeting.
I know, I'm not saying that. It's not a challenge for you. I'm sure that it's extremely challenging.
Clearly said he wanted a mud meeting. I'm just gonna cup coffee. I'm still listening.
Right.
But don't forget, he said he wanted a mud meeting.
So in those cases, I think the clear line in Council Topaz, I think part of what I'm hearing here and with the ability to bring up stuff is that sometimes I have wondered if you have presented this information to John or to Muhammad, and you have presented it, engaged in a discussion or whatever with them prior to, and then with the mayor prior to our meetings, because it really does, it frustrates the heck out of me when I think we are going along on something we have reached with our last code change that you initially asked for it to be taken off an agenda, and it was, and the process you went through was you let the mayor know, asked the mayor to do that, and I know you contacted me. I don't know if you let Councilor.
Everybody.
Okay, so good. And so I think that was great. And it's like, okay, let's take the time to do it. And then we had a 3-week time to discuss. And I think, I don't recall, maybe you did share some additional information or some things in between. I think that's all good and appropriate. But then I guess this isn't New England. And it may be the custom in New England, but I don't believe it is our custom here. I don't think it was custom in the Midwest where I grew up. And that we have, so that if I have a real issue with the right and the wrong, the black and the white. And I may just be, well, right now I can no longer pull, I'm just a kindergarten teacher. I'm teaching 4th grade now, so I have to teach long division. I can no longer pull the 4th grade. And sure, I don't have experience working with doctors, federal employees. I work with children. And my work is as important, and my opinion
It
I
is.
believe, my opinion on these things, my care for the community counselor, I believe is as important as yours. And I'm not going into the right or wrong. And I know I came into this position. There are a number of things that I don't necessarily like the way the vision is going. But I understand that I'm a representative of a community, and I'm just gonna, unless there's a, clear moral issue. But to talk about how can there be a right or a wrong, clear right or wrong development? I think Council Clare has, for instance, Nob Hill. You refer to maybe a great amphitheater and maybe we'll lose a few trees. Councilor Topaz, that tears my heart out. I'm one of those tree huggers. So I think it's that kind of issue where sometimes I think that you're not right, I'm not right. You're not wrong, I'm not wrong. The mayor's not right, not wrong on some of this stuff. And I feel it gets pulled into that. And I would say, so again, Mayor, I'm glad I have at times considered running for mayor. And but now I'm on the council. It's like, I'm not gonna be a principal. I'm a teacher. I'm not gonna be a principal. I say in this, no way, you're saying, I'm not running against you and, I'm not running against you in November. I don't know, but it's like, I ain't touching this. But I do think though that the mayor sometimes is frustrating as me. We just need to, as long as it's not, if Councilor Toy, when you do this, make statements that discredit our staff in a public setting.
Or
And when you
offensive.
cross that,
That's a line too, offensive.
that's a line that should not be crossed. And I believe, Mayor, that it absolutely, in those instances, to intervene and stop. But if it's going on and rambling on, maybe we're just gonna have to go on and listen to the rambling.
Can I speak to one thing?
May I just capture a couple of things? I hear some shared values coming from this. I hear the shared value of honoring each other's experience.
Yes, and listening to each other.
Yes,
I
that's
think
what I
that's the
heard.
biggest thing is
All important.
Councilor Topaz would like to be heard. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay.
Honor each other, listen to each other, yes, listening.
When I first got my city manager job down in Southern Oregon, city of Myrtle Point, I went into this community and I said, well, what's your vision? What's your mission? Vision? Oh yeah, we got one of these. And it's just, we agree to get along, we agree to respect each other. I mean, it's the most foundational, basic, and it's ground rules for working together. And this is not a vision. This isn't a 20-year plan or 30-year plan that a lot of communities have. And they start, and we don't even start with vision. We have the 2020 vision that is flying cars and stuff. But we just went straight to strategic action plan items so that those are elements of the strategic action plan, or the vision and action plan for a longer term look. But internally, we're looking at this. What we really need to focus on is the pieces. You're talking about pieces, we're talking about the pieces. We have this vision of the opportunities that were presented through the mill closures and the city's opportunity to good work and supporting the acquisition of those properties was so transformational that work is kind of leading the vision kind of bottom up rather than from top down. And there's work to do on the vision. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a community vision and there's this kind of shared interpersonal dynamic. You as a body working together too, which is super important. And I think this is super healthy and appreciating this.
Well, I just, and I'll apologize for my comments towards Councilor Topaz. Apparently you like that type of meeting, but I don't feel good about my comments about why are you here for the last 12 years. I think if we just honor each other and respect that maybe we disagree and we don't have to go after each other's throat. I actually have a lot of respect for you. You have done a lot of things and I don't dislike you. I don't. I dislike some of the times when you discredit the staff and the work that has been put in, because you have been involved in it. And you've always been on the outside of it though. And I've been watching you go up to the Meriwether Center when this all started. Number one meeting. Okay? And you set up your own little areas and stuff and like, no, this is what it needs to be. So you've been pretty consistent about it, but this has been a vision from the entire community with a number of outreach, with a lot of time and effort put into it. A lot of time and effort, a lot.
Okay, I'm just.
Can I?
So I just want to apologize again for my
I
comment.
don't take it as an insult, right?
Okay.
On your comment, Pat,
Go low though.
about disrespecting people. Long before I was on the council and when I was on the council, even before he was mayor, I told John about the engineering problems we had that were being caused, physical measurable problems. And they never got fixed. And some of the personnel that allowed them to happen, and they cost the city lots of money. So don't ever say that I just jumped that onto the council. It was communicated clearly a long time ago. That's one thing. Okay, second thing. This business where we put a lot of time and a lot of effort into it. I've been in projects we put a lot of time and effort into it. And at one moment we realized it was wrong, we had to junk it. Or we had to re-examine it and make sure we were doing it. Not you just do it. You don't say, well, the reason we're not going to change it is because we put a long time and a lot of effort into it. That's not a good answer for getting successful projects done.
Well, I don't disagree. I'd love to have bigger, better with waterfront, but the feasibility with the budget, because there's also the money issue. This is what fits.
See, that's the thing I have a problem. I don't have a problem with the money.
And this actually fits with our community and trying the most vision on keeping it right size for our community.
Our vision with the architect was there, but money has never been a problem with me. Mainly because I know I've got to somehow handle financing it. And right now I don't know how, but I'm gonna find out. That's just the way the projects I've had to run do. It isn't like you've got $7 to get this job done. A lot of the projects that we start off, you've got $10 to do the project and you get 3/4 of the way done. Oh, we gotta change this and this, but we're not gonna add any more to the $10. So, as I say, from my long-term experience, money is never a problem. It's something that you've gotta handle. And you don't ever have enough when you get started. Just the way it is.
So can we go ahead and do our
I'm gonna bring this back. I do wanna check in with Counselor Morton. How you feeling out there? Oh, how you feeling, Counselor Morton?
Oh, okay, thanks. Thank you. I didn't hear you at the very first. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Well, at this point, I think in terms of respect for each other on the council, I think that is needed. And one of the things that we can do is allocate our time. We have so much time in a meeting, and if one person takes up 50% of that time, what's the other 4 allocated? Not really a whole lot. And we can look back at who's allocating the times on our council meetings, and what's come out of it is not a whole lot. Nothing has come out of it. Out of all that time that possibly one or 2 counselors have possibly want to dominate the council. This is the mayor's meeting. This meeting belongs to the mayor. By charter, he runs the meeting and approves the agenda. So there it is. And so most of this meeting, I can see that the mayor should have a good lion's share of input to the meeting as it moves along and make certain that it moves along. But man, we get sidetracked every time it seems like. But this is a mayor's meeting, and I think that what he says should be in a sense respected, and we should move forward with our meeting. I just don't see where where we need to be squabbling. I know that we don't have good role models in our government in terms of federal and state. And what we have here is we don't have, and I'm celebrating this, we don't have a two-party system sitting at this table trying to hammer things out. We have each other's individuals' input that we represent our community. And with no allegiances and alliances to anyone that I know of, we try our best to work that way. And I think that's a big positive for this council and for many other councils that don't have a political agenda attached to making decisions for a small community. And so there is a celebration for that. I think it's a big positive that we all should kind of feel good about. The second thing is that, hey, let's allocate our time. Let's be respectful of each other and think that, hey, I'm taking up too much time here with what I'm saying, and leave it at that. So with that in mind, that's my comment.
Good comment, Doug.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I will say I respect Doug because he is all about the process. He really is. He loves government. Has been doing this quite some time, been on a number of boards. I've learned a lot from him. And I want to give people the ability, your individual counselors, I want you to have your input. And that's why I let it go a little sideways, because maybe we're gonna get around to a point. Sometimes it just goes completely the opposite.
Right.
You know, that's why I do try to have that flexibility and allow that to let individual counselors have their say, is because I think it's welcome, wanted, and needed. And if our meetings take another hour longer than they should, if it was productive, then great. Yes, if it were productive, great. And they used to be very productive and very long, and it just doesn't feel that way anymore.
Can we, are these values that you can agree on? Are these things that you can practice?
The questions in advance is the whole. If something will come up, you now have a question because of something else, so you can't attack all questions.
But if the lagoon is not on the discussion and then you go on a 30-minute rant about the lagoon, can we maybe try to look at things like that? Where if you have something that, hey, someone called you and said something about the lagoon, then you can in turn call John and not maybe discuss it in the meeting where we're not discussing the lagoon?
Well, let's go with the lagoon. Let's talk about the industrial.
Not directly in the lagoon, that's just as a general topic.
I agree. Back to the question, we're talking about citing a particular new business in the industrial site. Okay, that's what's on the agenda. We now bring up, we have a problem with the lagoon in that site. Do you consider that?
Well, yes, but then say you've seen that on the agenda, right? So could you call John up ahead of the meeting and say, hey, John, have you guys thought about this as far as the lagoon?
The timing is when that question comes up. That's my question. If I saw that ahead, that's not a problem. If something was said during the meeting, that triggers that. That's what I'm bringing up.
Well, and this is also an opportunity, if that happens during a meeting, you can always say, we're not addressing that here. We will put it on a future.
What happens if it's critical to the question you're answering though? Because you've just by procedure gotten rid of an important point. That's the question.
Yeah, and that's to your presiding officer. This is and so I wanted to capture things that you can all agree upon. Can we agree upon these as core values?
I can, absolutely. Every one of those. I
mean, this goes back to like reading your packet, knowing the material that's going to be discussed. And if you have a specific question, then that comes to staff or your presiding officer, right?
That's the wild card in my opinion.
Well, you don't have to do it. You don't have to do it 100%. You don't have to do it 100%. That's. But.
Well, or if something is that important and you've got a new piece of information where you're like, I can't make a decision tonight. I need more information.
Well,
That's an okay thing to say.
when the situation is someone is discussing something and makes a comment which is not in the packet, that triggers the question. That's the part, and it could be that question is more important than everything else. There's more questions you've handled before. I'm talking about something in the presentation, because presentations aren't 100% in the packet.
Well, or maybe as a part of this is like flagging your concern, right? That comment triggers another set and a huge issue over here. Like, is there a way to flag that concern?
Not ahead of time.
Well, at that time, you can flag it to be considered with.
Well, see, it's not to be considered later, it can be considered now. It's that big of a impediment.
Well, and I
All
think
I
that
can
the
say is-
questions in advance, that goes hand in hand with the respect of each person's time. So if you do have a question and you're realizing that it's gonna take quite a conversation to get the answer that you're looking for, maybe in the middle of a work session or in the middle of a regular session isn't the best time to have that conversation. So then you could say, I would like to, discuss this further with John and get more information and then come back to it or something like that, instead of going on, for 50 minutes trying to get an answer that maybe you can't get in that meeting.
Okay, if you can't get an answer, then it's gotta be tabled. That would be fine. If that could be done, that would be fine.
I don't think that's an unreasonable request.
Well, yeah, and I think sometimes the questions can be loaded. I mean, and I'm just sitting here thinking about, I really trust our staff. Government moves at a very slow pace, that we are not, when it comes to these, especially these projects, it's very, we have hired these people as professionals to do their job. They're not working against us. They are not working against the citizens. They are working for us. They are working for the citizens. And I feel as though it's sometimes not that way. That's what's perceived as not that way. And I have a hard time with that.
Well, some of these people aren't as good as you're saying they are. That's my problem.
So I mean, some of the questions sometimes are like, wait a minute, that's not even a fair question, because that makes them look like they're incompetent of doing their job and they're professionals. And I don't want to, I want people to be able to have good resumes from this. I want to keep them first and foremost. I want it to be a resume builder, that if we help us do great, wonderful things, they can put it down and move on and not have things pop up, because it has happened from our council meeting that it has followed people before. Our comments as counselors have followed staff members before. How detrimental is that?
Right.
And I'm not sure if that's exactly enough for Counselor Topaz there. I think that you have to remember, Counselor Topaz, that the staff that we hire to do the jobs, fix water main leaks, pull people over, whatever it is, they represent us. So when you're saying that they're doing a bad job, you're doing a bad job too. because
That's
you're their
correct.
leader.
Exactly correct.
So make sure that when you are saying those things, you understand that comes right back to the detail.
I agree with that, totally. I totally agree with that.
So make sure you think that.
No, that's the point. I want us not to make a mistake which is reflected in the way they're working. That's why some of these things are brought up.
So.
Absolutely, you're absolutely correct.
So I guess I just want, I'm glad the conflict, but like a specific example that I think was fairly recent was when we had our sewer, stormwater master plan and our sewer master plan. And I recall Councilor Topaz at a time, you had a question that had to do specifically with some historical lines that existed at one time. I think you brought that up at the council meeting. I think that type of thing with that kind of small detail is exactly the kind of thing that should be presented to ask professional staff. Because I'm assuming that you prepared for the meeting by looking at the presentation and then listening to the presentation. But then if which dealt with the general thing, but then to ask a specific question about a specific, I think, relatively minor thing, and at that moment at a public meeting is better to be addressed with staff, those types of things prior to coming on. Now, if you think you're being given the runaround by the staff and raw information to do that, but I mean, if it was like, how then can we expect our consultants are to, contact OTAC or whoever's doing that? Hey, you guys aware of this and do it.
Ask John if I hadn't done that. Ask John if I hadn't done exactly that. About that little minor problem with stormwater.
At this meet at prior to this meeting.
A number of times.
All right, we're gonna bring this back. I appreciate it. I think you all kind of needed this.
Well,
And
yeah,
just identifying weaknesses in the way meetings function, right? This is an important thing. And we can only send you to so many trainings, like, there's a lot of it that happens here on the dais that cannot be trained to.
well, so I think and I don't know how the rest of the council feels about me, I'm seriously just thinking about starting to rule with an iron fist, and if it gets out of point of order, it's gonna be addressed a number of times. And you have to respect that I do that, because it is my meeting to run. And I don't wanna be that way, but that's one way of actually getting these meetings back to being right, is just me addressing point of order immediately. And it may look like I'm this authoritarian, but that is what I will do. I don't want to, I want everybody to have their voice, but it is another way of doing it. I'm not, I've listened to plenty of other mayors that, 3-minute comment, if they even allow it, public comment, if they even allow it. And they just make you run, some just make you, they have to be submitted into the agenda, that's it.
Mayor, Councilor Martin, I totally agree with what you're saying. Some individuals told me in the community that have looked in on the meetings and says, you know what this looks like? Just one big filibuster. And it just keeps going on and on and on about nothing. And that I hear that, and then I start to look at the community survey, and it does reflect that we talk a lot about nothing, and I think that needs to come to an end. And anyway, so I just agree with what you said.
I'm just throwing it out there because I want to get to a solution before the next meeting of how do we go in strengthening both of these in alignment and looking at our weaknesses and trying to figure out, and I'm looking at their weaknesses as some of it is us. So how can we be better team players in serving our community? And this is a critical way of doing that. And that's what I've identified through this right here. I hear you, I know everybody hears you here, and this is what we have to do. And it's a give and take in any relationship. Any relationship I've ever been in, a friendship is a give and take situation. And sometimes you criticize your friends, but you always give uplifting comments if you truly value the friendship that you've earned. So I am, wanting to earn the value, our staffs, to bring this back. I'm willing to go to the extreme measure of that is just what we're gonna do. It's not gonna be fun. We're here on business, and that's what it is. And we're not gonna get sidetracked. And I'll just point of order. If it's off topic, it's off topic. And if you hear, if one of you starts to hear it, just say point of order, and I'll gavel it. Just say point of order. That's good enough. I'll gavel. Just because sometimes I don't hear it.
How do we how do we support you in this?
I just asked for it. If you hear if it's going off agenda and I haven't called it,
That's, yeah, and that's how you support each other.
point of order.
As staff, there are trainings around effective meetings, is this something that we apply more training to? Is this something that we apply consultants to? Is this something that you just practice? What's the approach?
I think we need to practice.
Yep.
I'm not sure that we had training, we've had Kathy's shared.
Had George Dunkel come in, who's pretty dang good.
Kathy has
You
shared
guys haven't
that
met
I
George, I don't know.
we just need to.
I've done so many freaking communication trainings in my
You might have met George yet.
professional
We need to,
time.
We just need to live it.
Okay.
One more, what the heck?
Yeah, I think
Thank
I
you, Patrick.
think, I hate to put this all on you, Counselor Topaz, but you have to be willing. You tell us what you feel like might be helpful for you to do some growing in a meeting.
Well, listen to me for one thing, rather than yell at me up close, one of the things I hear a lot is, I don't understand what you're saying. Well, then ask me when I'm coming through. But at that point, it's done.
But you do understand where the mayor's coming from, where he has to keep things on, he has to keep the train on the track.
If he's keeping it on the wrong tracks, that's where I disagree. And I think that's where our problem is.
The agenda and just staying.
No, see, I've tried to put things on the agenda and he hasn't even gotten to see them because they've been cut off by Dawn or Kathy.
So
I put things on the agenda and I've only been here for a year.
I've been here for a bunch of years.
I know, but you see what I'm saying? So I found a way to do it that was
What I'm gonna
effective.
tell you right now is John and Kathy do not withhold any information.
No, I didn't yell. I mean, these were all written down.
Just so you know, Counselor Chilton, that John and Kathy do never withhold information from you.
No, I know, I'm trying to express to Counselor
I just
Topaz,
wanna-
there's a different
I just
way
want
to
it
get
clear.
his message through than
And-
what he's been doing.
Yeah, and not only for you, but for anybody who may be watching, that is not happening here. Okay, I'm not having stuff withheld from me
I mean,
at all.
here, I'm gonna like type these up. Paste them up here. Can I encourage you all to build personal relationships with each other?
I think that's what's missing.
Yes.
Yes.
I think
And
this
this
is
is-
bonding.
Yeah, and this is
Would
lunch,
you
this
jump
is
in?
coffee. These are like the one-on-one, do not deliberate, do not make any decisions. But building relationships, like that's where, that's how it happens. And y'all are really aware you need 3 votes to get anything moving along.
That's right. But one vote is very powerful when it comes to that. That's one thing we need to understand is that we think that we don't have all this power and it doesn't matter what side you're on or where you're sitting, you're a vote. And that's sensitive when there's only 2 more needed.
Yeah, and there are really hard decisions that you have to make as
That make very big decisions.
part of your role.
Yes.
I will go ahead, I think the legal briefing around serial meetings, I think is important
Yep.
and necessary. And that's to guide you in your coffee dates. Do not deliberate, do not make decisions. So that is something that like we can do to help you, but to practice this, you're going to practice, you will have support in this, and building personal relationships, like that's where it's the road, really.
I will admit, I know one of the reasons I hadn't moved was one of the reasons I finally ran. I've retired. I'm gonna be a substitute teacher. And I'm gonna have time. And of course, COVID, money, this and that, and I'm back to full time teacher. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna have to come, I have to overcome that and make sure I am reaching out more often.
And I would
With a phone
Are you
call
a
to Steve,
substitute?
to Rick, to Doug, to Jessica.
Are you a substitute or real teacher right now?
Well, substitutes are real teachers.
I know.
I am an employee of the St. Helens School District.
Are you 100% now?
Yes.
Oh, I asked that one, so they got you suckered back in, is that it?
It is.
We all get busy in our
Yeah,
lives.
right, I know, but this is something I'm going to try to overcome and do that too.
Super important and valuable. I am gonna
So-
scroll down, we're gonna talk
Sure.
through a little bit more goal one. No, this is really valuable and We all needed some group therapy on this one, because it is. it's
Family therapy is.
Yeah, we do need some.
I was just like, just let me
Undeveloped.
go on it for a second.
No, beer pongs are off the table for a little bit. So wanted to talk about some staff items that came from staff that you see in the SWAT. Right? Professional development, I feel like we've got really good opportunities now and certification that is supported. Talked a little bit about solid information technology within our city. Staff has several ideas, including like an intranet and upgrading our domain. Be aware of this. You're gonna see a list of projects come to you for you to prioritize and ask questions about. So no surprises.
Well, yeah, don't we usually do that here in our goal settings, that we kind of look at and review those and then kind of help pick some up to the bottom of the list, to the top of the list?
We're at
So
the
we're doing it
point-
differently now?
Well, we're at this point where, based on the dynamics and based on council dynamics, we needed to have this conversation
Yes,
before we could go into that.
absolutely. But
But yes, we
but
can.
usually it's in a discussion like this and
Yeah.
priority, not individual papers sent
I,
individual counselors.
and I want to talk to you, Lottie, because you've been working really hard. There have been a lot of extra meetings.
But those are really important. That was part of our whole, why we changed our goal system to the way it is and setting that single target vision.
Yep.
So I
So-
don't want to go lax on this piece of paper, and I
No,
think that needs to be a little bit,
discussion in person.
absolutely.
Agreed. The question was whether we do another one of these or if we do it at a work session.
I think we just strictly to the goals on the next one, as far as where they're placed and what we've checked off, do we see any that need to be moved up?
Okay.
We know waterfront is pretty much on the forefront of everybody's mind,
Right, right, and I really wanted to
police
focus on
station,
1 and 2 here. Mhm.
in the industrial park.
Yeah,
And then we have everything else in between,
yeah.
watching out for the burglars, to try to get some kind of program going at the library, and then Tony, you were just here till 10:30 last night, and Doug's Parks, steeped in Parks Commission, and yeah, so I mean, I think that's why we need that meeting to happen, is just because.
Yes.
Well, we are the highest paid in the state,
Yeah, yeah.
So,
No,
Mayor wise, I'm number 3, actually.
sorry, that was a.
so there's an item that's come up in a number of different formats and most recently from Jacob around charter review.
Mhm.
His was related to annexation. Charter review is a 2-year process.
Yeah.
It brings together, well,
God,
tell me
we
more
really
about
need-
charter review. I haven't been through
We
one.
really need to look into that then, because I think there are some things that we could, if we wanted to, it has to go out to a vote, of course.
It also bleeds in very well to goal 2, right, about community engagement.
So what was Jacob wanting to change about the annexation? Just because we probably had a high volume of them, so
I think it,
feeling a lot of heaviness there with.
Change the vote required element of the charter process so that annexation just happened more automatically now. It just saves a bunch of unnecessary bureaucracy. There's never been a contested annexation since.
but in the charter, it needs to go out to a vote probably.
I'm not sure the specific what do you think that needs, but the charter is, our charter is actually a really basic charter. It doesn't have a lot. I mean, it just says,
That's what I thought. I read it like a few times. I'm like.
there's really, it doesn't say a lot. But what it does, it defers a lot of authority to the council, and then it doesn't say a lot. That's not a bad thing.
Leaves room for.
It leaves room for you as a governing body to come up with your own rules, to define behavior expectations, what's in, what's out. I mean, those are all good things to have. We don't have like financial restrictions imposed by the public, spending limits, no raising, and there's some stuff that really hobbles councils. It can be voted on and gotten into the charter that we don't have, thankfully. It allows us to, business.
We still have some of the state rules that are squirrely.
Well, I can say that about the city. I mean, clear back from pallbearers, they've always really done well with managing the budget and trying to work on that minimal. I didn't realize how minimal it was till you get behind the scenes, boy. So.
How much is it?
$1.90.8 per thousand. You know, I mean, Bill Eagle's been in that process for quite some time. Yeah, so.
Yeah, and really the city's taxation rate is dysfunction of that is that we used to rely on industry so heavy. They've subsidized so much to the water rates, the utility rate, all those community support, that the taxes off the electricity, is off the, all the natural gas they use were huge checks. I mean, millions of dollars coming to the city, and then that went away. All of that burden slapped on to put on the ratepayers. Those rates over 100%. 150%.
And why can't we change that again?
Measure 5 and 50.
It's a statewide state referendum.
But the thing was, there was no correction for it, or modification every 10 years when the census came out.
Never change it. I don't understand.
The state law, it allows it. It's a voter, and it's the equivalent of a charter.
Yeah.
Right, it's something that needs to be
Constitutional.
voted in.
Yeah, it's a constitutional measure 5 and 50 have really.
Yeah.
Been detrimental
So
for the
we've-
entire state.
In response to that, we've, rather than a tax and spend kind of form of governance, we're getting entrepreneurial. We're looking at our future and doing revenue opportunities and, and creating, small fees where we can't make it work any other way. And that's a relatively new concept. Not everybody's on board with, interfering with private sector types of activities, but, taking some leadership chances and roles on the mill site and the water riverfront here. We're in that business where generations ago they would just like, who's going to do something with that kind of thing. When cities think, no, this is really important. We have an opportunity to control the outcome of this property by acquiring it. It's super important. And, kudos to the council and for supporting that.
The danger with this is the state makes a law that says what we're doing, we can't do, which they've done.
I don't know that we're in a worse place. Yes, we're in a worse place, but it's in private hands.
Yeah, I know, it's like, other states don't have this. This is the situation. Other states don't have some of these.
Yeah, and things like, the use of the waterfront in the mill, where you have a party trying to not allow marine use of the in-water component as a huge piece that we're pushing back really hard on. And that would have, if the city wasn't involved with that, it would be a really different outcome. That would have gone flying through. But we're at the table, we have a vested interest in trying to represent our citizens and the long-term interests of the city.
So that's still gonna take a couple public meetings to do that, to even talk about the language, even though it's so minimal, because it is reviewing it. It's revising that charter and putting it out. It's gonna take some.
Charter review, I don't know.
There's a lot of work to do on council rules. Yeah. I think that we made some tweaks a couple of years ago that got us a little better place.
That's something we can do.
But I mean, if that's what he's asking to do.
That's, well, if there is an
Is that what we're
appetite
looking at?
here
For it.
to review our charter, it's generally a citizen group of what, like 12 to 20 that. meet
Well, yeah,
here.
that's what it was.
There is, I'm sure there are consultants that help with that,
There was
but
a-
it's gonna be a significant resource input.
Right. Because that's.
It comes up from time to time, different ways that we should look at our
It was
charter.
quite controversial.
And this came up through the annexation process, this discussion of it.
Yes, I've seen a couple, that was the most recent note, but I've seen notes around charter review a couple of times.
Isn't there standard annexation rules from the state about cities can do, or is that you play it town by town?
I think town by town, there's basic rules. I think they can't,
LOC has a model charter.
but you can deny on elements of whatever you choose to as a city, really. You could say there's not enough water. You could say there's, yeah. Yeah, you have to, but you have to put a brand new water line all the way down to Columbia City. Sorry, you're on that side of town. That's who's gonna do it, right? I mean, there's certain things you could do.
Interestingly enough, the length of water lines is a temperature of how well cities are running. When you have a water problem, the city's in trouble.
For land use.
Well, here, you know, say, but there are a couple of these things that are just fundamental.
Okay.
With the resources in mind and the time for the charter review, I think I'd like to see more of the things that, the reasons why we need to do this. That's
That's what I was asking.
more than just the
Yeah.
annexation, like, because it's gonna take so much time, it's gonna take a lot of resources and work. I feel like I wanna make sure that it's, really needed. Yeah.
Well, what,
Feasible and needed. Is it really needed right now and why?
and yeah, and maybe not, because one of the things that with that last review put on, I think that was actually when Doug, you were a relatively new council member with that whole charter review. I think some of the discussion was the fact of trying to put in the charter to run the city the way we're in fact kind of running it. Okay, so we're still, by our charter, it's councilors who run things, but we're de facto running in this hybrid model. And I think that last charter review was they were trying to change the charter to put in the city manager, city administrator, and there was a pushback to that. So what we found a way, this hybrid, I mean, we still have that authority, but we have de facto through code. and
council
stuff.
always has all of the
Yeah,
authority.
we do,
I mean,
but
in any charter, the council
Right.
is the governing body, they have all the authority, it just concentrates that onto a manager form.
right, but it's not like Rick isn't down at Public Works or talking, to Mohammed's not reporting to Rick every day to do things. I'm not running the planning commission, I'm a liaison, whereas, so even Portland now has got the revision. So I think there are things to look at. I don't know if it's a high priority,
Yeah.
because functionally, I think we're working in a pretty good way, but there are things I agree we need to look at.
I think one of the big things, is am I on here? Let me see.
Yeah.
I think one of the big things is that as we are liaisons, I think the language changed from overseeing and having oversight over a department to being a liaison. And that term liaison means what? Well, we talked about that a lot in before 2012, before the voters ratified the language in the new charter. And what we put in as a kind of a governing policy is that we would, at that time, we would write evaluations on each department that each counselor was a liaison to. So we would get together, what that forced the liaison to do, or the council person, was to understand what's going on in the department and meet periodically with the department head so that you could understand more, the more ins and outs of each department. And so we kind of, when we adopted a new governing policy, what was it, John, 2 years ago? The kind of the city manager kind of thing. We did away with the department evaluations, but we still write an evaluation on our acting city manager, which is John Walsh. And so collectively, I think those evaluations are important, and they've kind of like, in some senses, been swept under the carpet. I know that I was frustrated because I kept asking council members to get their evaluations in to Kathy Payne and into a big folder. And there were some counselors who just refused to do it. I'm not doing that. And so even though it was in the charter, they just basically said, I'm not doing it. And those counselors are not with us anymore. But we do have, that was to me, that was a key to get each of our council members as a liaison involved in the department they're a liaison for, and communicate to that department head about goals and about what they expect. And then at the end of the year, how did it go? And then set new goals for the next year. So that was a process that I followed in Public Works, and I felt good about it. I don't do that anymore, but I try to get into Mohabed and have conversations about what's going on, what's any issues and that kind of thing. But that's all it is. There's no real evaluation that I can sign my name to saying that I feel that the department head is beyond expectations or doing a great job and doing this and doing that. And I think one part of our evaluation was what's the department head doing right, and where could that department head improve? And that was always hard for me. And it was a gut check, especially on issues that the department head could improve. But it was a chance and a place to put it down in writing. And I like that. In my tenure, we have fired quite a few people, and that is not a good feeling at all. That is not a good feeling when people of importance walk away, and whether it be a utilities 3 person or a department head or whatever, it's still a staff person. And
You have a good point there, Doug, as a liaison, because you were talking about the firing, and that is one of the things that if the liaison over police, planning, I don't know what you would be, I don't know, I guess that'd be administration, but planning. But if the department head, the liaison, and the city manager all agree on an individual in that department, they can make decisions on that. If only 2 do, then it needs to be kicked to the council. So
that's correct.
If they're all in agreement, that's just the way it is. That's really the only, other than that, your liaison reporting and trying to assess it is very difficult to, I don't have a public works background. It's very tough to, other than I can judge a person's character, to give Mohammed an accurate review. That really should be John, who has had some familiarity with that. You know what I mean? So it's tough to do those.
Yeah, but it isn't tough when it comes down to ethics and someone.
Yes, exactly. That part's
someone
easy.
is
That
caught
part is easy. Yep.
stealing city property and that kind of thing. It's an effective, fast way to deal with a situation like that or whatever. And the same thing was true of spending something like over $10,000 of budgeted money for an emergency. The same thing. But you know what it did, and that's where our hybrid came in, that it involved the council person in some decision-making process in a collaborative way, that it involved 2 staff people and 1 council person, and they had to come to an agreement that way. So anyway, that's neither here nor there, because it is kind of important, because it's kind of one of the things that we hang on to at this point. Whether we're going to use it or not is up to the council as we move forward. But one of the things that I like about issues like that, I'd rather call an emergency meeting of the council to fire someone if that's what it's going to take, or like we do now to hire people. We go through the council. So it's something that we've got to look at carefully. And I think Patrick brings up a good point that it has changed drastically. It's changed a lot for me because I don't camp out in the public works department head's office that much anymore, nor the parks office, Parks and Recreation. But I have to look at it from a distance, and I'm okay with that. If that's the system that we're using, I don't mind it at all. But one of the things to keep in mind, Patrick, you brought this up. We were when it came to stipends, we were the reason that we are one of the highest in the states is that we were one of the only commission forms of government. And that meant that we ran a department. When I came in, we ran a department. And Public Works, if you wanted to take over an office and roll up your sleeves and put on a tie and come in and make those tough kinds of decisions on a day-to-day basis, you had every right to do that by the city charter. And that's why we had the charter review. And it's kind of now we're at a place where we're liaisons. And I'm comfortable with everything that has transpired. And I do want to tell you that when we were a city charter, we didn't do it like Portland. We did allow, as council people, the department head to run day-to-day operations. We didn't get involved in that. It was just kind of a pact that we felt that we wouldn't do that. And so it got close to doing that in a couple departments, but there wasn't too many discrepancies as things moved along. Now, as liaisons, we don't go into our department heads and tell them what to do. We take the message from what the department head is doing and bring it to council. And if there's any problems with that, or we can deal with that. But mostly it's an understanding of the council working with looking at each of the departments. Anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in. Sorry for getting long-winded, but when you talk about charters, it is a long process.
That was just the tip of the iceberg.
It's fabulous and it's important.
So I heard the bell ding, and I know we got probably a community engagement focus. I don't know if we kind of scuffed a little bit of that on our.
Yeah, we have. Well, and Kathy, if you want to scroll down to this one, these are items, and this is on the back of that. And we will not belabor this because it sounds like there's appetite to come together and work the list and discuss. The things that I've heard, I wanted to report back and just gut check areas that have been identified for action, right, around building collaboration. The Main Street Partnership, this is also goal for an economic development. You're gonna have MOU update coming, but to really think about what the action plan
Lots of good
looks
work
like.
there. Yep.
Here.
Also with Paul and CSAT, and we also got the region. What's region? Pullback. Actually getting ready to going to be presenting at our next meeting. You'll see it here shortly.
Yep, the economic development part. I feel like we have strong partnerships all around. Here's this third bullet, cultivating and sustaining program level partnerships. I wanted to bring this to your attention, also for departments to think about this. If there are resource inputs needed, there are places where we exist because of our partnerships. So thinking about recreation, I think about the library, I think about PD, PD's on your printout. But we've got really strong partnerships, and I just want you all to think about resource inputs that might be required, places where we can do a better job. If liaisons, or what the liaison's role is in cultivating partnership and being a part of that, right? And then this middle bullet, the issue-focused stakeholder conversations. Yeah, we've been talking quite a lot about homelessness issues and how we're gonna really need our partners to be at the table and to talk this through. Implementation of a House Bill 3115, where the city needs to provide a safe resting place for people.
Or else.
I was about to see.
What's that?
Or else, right?
Yes, yes.
It's either we allow it somewhere or it's allowed everywhere.
Yeah. And what does that look like? And how do we best support people who need
Yeah,
services?
Wow,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to swallow that for a minute. That's
exactly Southville.
Yeah.
Ship them to St. Helens, no, a better place. Caboose, that's what our resting place, everything goes there.
Well,
But-
for Topaz, last time that comment was made like that, I got a call from Deborah Kafori.
But
aside from that, though, I understand that those conversations are already
Yeah.
happening. Is that true, John?
It is.
On the homeless issue.
Yeah.
It's very much happening, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, there is.
there's a hard stop with it of July of this year. I
Is
believe.
it June? Yeah.
July of this year, there's supposed to happen. Something's, we're gonna be talking about it sooner than later.
Okay, and like pediatric team.
So,
Yeah.
waiting for that.
Yep. And then the expanding of civic participation, right? Exploring town halls. We've heard about youth council, the youth leaders club that exists, but they're not actively advising council. How do we kind of get around that? Refocusing arts and cultural, is the other one.
I have a comment on youth council.
Yes.
Notice it isn't here. And the reason is it wasn't set up to be sustainable. And this is a perfect opportunity for us to, again, collaborate with the educational process. Instead of having two counselors overseeing youth council and trying to involve them somehow with advising either the Parks Commission or the City Council or whatever, from their point of view, what needs attention. Why not give that piece, and because we're in collaboration with the educational community, remember, why not give that piece to the civics teacher in the high school? My gosh, you could do it in a sustainable way that would stay in place, because there'll always be a civics teacher. And it could be a process that they could use, and the youth could come into our council and report what they have. And without us kind of like, gosh, getting in and super managing that group, I kind of think that it's up to maybe the school to kind of step forward and look at that piece. And I know that teacher who does teach civics would be very involved in that. And I just think it'd be a win-win for us. And that way we could bring back the youth council without burdening a council person, because I don't know if the council person has that time to deal with all of that and the expertise to do that. So anyway, I kind of think if we want the youth council to be sustainable, hey, let's hand that off to the educational people who are better equipped to deal with that. And that's what they do in their classrooms every day in civics, talk about those issues. Anyway, that's my piece.
I love it.
Well, I like the idea. I think that Counselor though wanting to be involved is, if they want to take their time to do that, Counselor Merkley has expressed, I think it's a great idea. And I would, Doug, you brought this one up, refocus and restart Arts and Cultural Commission. You know, that was the last one. I don't know if you heard that, what she said, but that's one that has been missing for quite some time that we really need to look at bringing back, is that Arts and Cultural Commission.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And we need committed people. And again, it lost its sustainability somehow, some way, with just various reasons. But and I do think that can be brought back in a very sustainable way to always be with us. Maybe they took on so much that they burnt themselves out. And I think that was a whole lot of it. And then the leadership fell apart because they didn't have the time to deal with all the issues that they were confronted with. So I think that needs to be looked at again by the council and simplified and worked through. Anyway, that is something that we can kind of look at. I don't think it's something that we need to put on the front burner, and but it should be on our radar.
Thank you.
Well, and I'd also like to note that I know that Shauna Duggan has been working on the youth council stuff. So making sure she's involved in that conversation with the schools, I think is going to be important.
Well, I think our relationship with the school and the community center that we have right there, maybe that civics, maybe that youth council meets at our community
I think
center.
that's what's already happening.
And then
I
the
don't want to
students and
speak for Shauna,
Council
but I think she's
Berkeley, I
already
mean,
cultivating this.
yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
There's an active youth leaders club.
At the rec center.
Right, but there, I think,
Community center.
yes, but I think there's also a difference too, when you look at what the youth council can be, that we want youth involved in leadership and maybe organizing and doing activities and things, but I think in terms of like the city council, maybe having youth council representative is, as some cities, they actually have that at each of our meetings. There is a designate, there is person, whether that comes from Shauna's group or whatever, but there is somebody who has a seat at the podium or at the dais with us and would be included in the conversation. Would not be a voting member, of course, but would be able to participate in deliberation, not in executive sessions, but but just there. And as Doug says, we can certainly.
I think our meeting started going so south, we scared them off.
That kind of thing. So anyway, we'll.
Right now.
Well,
We're
maybe.
putting that out there. Let's wait a little bit.
Maybe with the, maybe
Kathy.
with,
Maybe we reevaluate in a year.
anyway, so I think, yeah,
It is about including more voices, and I appreciate that.
and not only, but also the visible presence.
Present differently if there is a teenager who wants, I don't know, maybe.
That got to be a kind of a shift in personnel, too many shifts at the same time. The comment about the Art and Cultural Commission, they did have a very strong cultural commission. And a lot of people got in as a freeloader, and they overwhelmed the good guys, and the good guys left. And at the same time, they didn't understand what they were supposed to do. I mean, they literally didn't read the rules, and there was nothing to do. And now it's going back, trying to get responsible people and something to do.
I will say particularly for this goal area 1, I feel like you're gonna practice. We're gonna work on improving what happens behind the dais. For goal area 2, I need your help. We need your help as staff. You are the figureheads, you are our governing body. And you guys really need to be leading goal area 2. I am going to be asking where and how you want to be involved in these.
Well, I
and
think,
getting commitments. Not right now.
I think we can answer some of those questions right now. I like, a hybrid, if we were exploring a fireside meeting of some sort with COVID going on, but Council Berkeley's expressed, Coco with a counselor. I think maybe we just do that plaza, we're gonna have that little thing right there.
Yeah.
You can see behind Counselor Topaz, the little turnabout. Does that have a fire pit in the middle of it? Is that what's gonna be there? And it should be. And it should be because we could have community burn
Eternal
there.
flame of St.
Well, we could have a community burn there. We could block off that section of
Sounds like
turnaround.
something from Harry Potter.
We have agricultural neighbors to help.
Yeah, it would be a nice little meeting space, but that's gonna be the first phase anyhow, so why not?
I will say that we specifically or very intentionally did not attempt to program that space, knowing that it's a fabulous opportunity for public art, but we didn't want to derail a bigger picture of just the core infrastructure.
You know, another idea is looking at 13 nights. That is a great opportunity to speak to our public, you know? Tons of people are there finding a way to throw a little bit of government in there where we're, you know, maybe the mayor gets
Yeah,
up
we
on
could
stage
absolutely-
and talks for a little bit and
absolutely.
says, come on down, or Counselor Berkeley does, or, you know, so finding those pivotal moments like that where we have the public's ear.
As long as you go down quite a bit and just attend and I get the public's ear because they can't help, you know, but draw to you. So.
And these are the types of
Oh,
ideas
we
and
can control that,
commitments
absolutely.
that we're gonna need to move forward and go to.
Yeah. So some brainstorming around how to get maybe the public involved more.
Yeah, and think about it, and think about your passions and your bandwidth.
And I think that'll help our relationship building too.
Oh, I
You know,
definitely.
because guess what? You know, where they know city council potentially is gonna have a quorum. I don't know how you go about that. How do these guys do this over here? At the freaking county? Same hallway. You walk in, go down, 1, 2, 3. How?
Constant state of
How?
violations.
So, I mean, that we can't. end
Being
up-
recorded all the
we can't
time
end up
too.
at a public Function and be all sat around this kind of chit chat should be perfectly fine.
As long as you don't talk about.
Business.
Exactly.
Yes.
Deliberations.
I know.
Well, maybe having Rachel there to constantly check our conversation. No.
Deliberating, don't deliberate over there.
But then all of a sudden the citizen comes up and says, hey, what about blah, 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 blah? And you're like, well, yeah, we're kind of moving forward with that. And then it starts getting a conversation and maybe you did, yeah. So what? One you has to take off while the other two answer?
You gotta just cut it off.
The answer is change the state law.
There's
three
three candidates filed for Henry's this position
Yeah, Kelly, and who else?
Kelly and a fella first by the name, I forget the name. There's a third.
Kelly Niles,
Yeah, and then Kelly
Smith.
Smith, and then a fella from anyway.
We also
That's
get.
gonna get long.
Hey, Durst.
It's gonna get
You're
long.
gonna get a new senator.
On Friday, we got the interim's gonna be appointed on Friday.
Yeah,
Oh,
Friday.
really?
yeah, county commissioners will be voting on that.
Oh,
Nice, okay.
Yep. And will they be 2 gals from Warren or 1 from Clatsop County?
correct.
Yeah.
To bring the section, let's just
Rachel,
wrap this section up, huh?
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, Council
Rachel,
Martin.
Councilor Morton.
Yes.
I just have a little bit of a go back, and that was with, again, kind of, like when we were talking about our hybrid kind of government and that kind of thing. One of the things that we decided at that time is the commissions and committees would be the oversight of the commissions and committees would lie with the counselor to oversee that or assert their leadership in that committee and that commission, whatever it is, whether it be the library committee, or it be the Parks Commission, well, whatever. And so with that, we discussed that a whole lot because those individuals in our community were not elected to those posts. They were assigned by the council, and there was felt a need for a council person to have oversight with those commissions and committees for them to be sustainable. And with that, when I was a Parks Commissioner, and I still think I am because it hasn't changed, but I let the Parks Commission leadership fall with the fall with the individuals who were appointed to it, and it's worked out very nicely. But there for a while, to keep that commission together, I felt at some time that there needed to be some stronger leadership and help and advise the chairman or whoever was in charge to continue tasks and to organize the committee so that everyone was a stakeholder in it. And so there are all those things. So that's another thing that we can look at when we look at our youth councils and what council person is overseeing it, or I still think that it is overseen rather than a liaison of a staff member. So I think it's important that the council does roll up their sleeves and show leadership in the community by doing that. We talked a lot about that at the time that we were dealing with our hybrid form of government. So that's just another piece. And that's something that we can talk about, put it on the back burner, and we can talk about at a future time.
Thank you so much. That's perfect. And I think it reinforces that really looking at the governing policy critically and taking some time. And I'm a big believer in making more opportunities for you all to show leadership in the community. I think that's really important. And this gets to the tone at the top, and it gets to how we function as an agency. Thank you, Counselor. So I'm just gonna give a couple notes on next steps. I'll go to John for closing comments. Or any benedictions that. Thank you. This has been a very helpful conversation. Kind of long time coming on some of it. So thank you. And we've got a commitment to some ground rules and a commitment to practice. More to come. Always. This has been a very active time for you all and for our hardworking city recorder team. Look for, round of applause. Look for each of our goal areas. You will find kind of in this format, the objective, and then under that, tactics and projects. It will be to you to really look through that. And I'll give an outline of all this too. Look at current priorities. Mark them off, particularly on goal 1 and 2, really think about the resource bits for public works projects. Like it's a lot more straightforward. Here's your $200,000 water line. For some of these, like we could get amazing consultants in, and these could easily be $100,000 projects, or they could be done internally. They require additional staff support.
Well, one of
time,
my,
that
so I
type
can
of
tell you,
thing.
one of mine would be to be really competitive as far as, do we need to hire anybody to look forward to grant applications? I know we have some good grant writers here, but is it something that we need to be looking at long-term with so many available probably coming up in the near future, just the federal level, and then it trickles down to the state and so on.
You know what's wrong with Jenny Demshore right now?
Nothing?
No, she's overworked.
There's only one of her.
That goes.
I mean, you've got a person who's got the talent that can do that, but she's doing that, and that also. That's her problem.
Yep, and you as the governing body, you set policy and resource allocation, right? Look for that in the next week or so. We'll bat around a couple of times to come back together. And then it's gonna be like intensive action planning and where you'd like to plug in to some of these next steps. Benediction?
So there's getting the grant, and then there's getting the grant. You put all this application, time and effort, energy.
Yes.
You dog and pony show, and then you get the award. I mean, and I reflect on a community development block grant that are sponsoring would make, right? You know, good community projects serves a wonderful need. But that ends up being a lot of work on staff. As much as that, a lot of that gets parsed out to, we develop project managers with contractual relationships that end up getting paid through the grant. But, you know, Jenny's time is, she spends a lot of time in the grant. And so it's, you know, once you get the grant, there's a lot of work to do also. These riverfront grants are very time consuming. Project financing is a big component of it.
John, we cut back on staff a number of years ago because the world did funny things. What is the design or the requirement to add staff? Where are our holes where we need extra people? We can complain about a lot of things, but we gotta remember, we amputated a bunch of spaces some time ago.
Yeah, I mean, we went through a down cycle where we lost 30% of our staff. You know, in general fund, 25% overall, and then slowly, and that's a lot of people exiting because we're hemorrhaging cash. There was, you know, the free fall economy. We just had to put the brakes on 2 feet, and yeah, they came back, and then bringing the, you know, programs back, getting some stability. Are we all right? Is it just, you know, are we good still? I'm just, there's a lead and a lag that kind of happens with local government and taxation revenues and things. And, you know, right now we're going strong and steady, and you know, it may last for a while, but there, you know, we don't want to get too far overextended. And there's always more resources, or, you know, more need than there are resources. I mean,
Well, that's something we could hire a third party for a good.
a lot of stuff is best contracted, in my opinion. There is institutional knowledge and hire somebody, but, you know, if things change, they end up going away anyway. But
Well, there's other organizations, we'll just say that I'm experienced with, that have hired a grant person, and that person's, you know, salary for the year she had to earn.
Yes.
So that was another way
process.
to make sure that it was a self, you know, paying for position. So that's something else we could look at, is that hiring someone who's like, oh, I'm definitely gonna get you guys a lot of money because I'm gonna get myself paid, you know, so.
we have to be a little,
The management
public
side.
agency, we need to be a little bit careful of the business model around that. But yes, developing either capacity with our talented staff that can focus on other things, focus on grants rather than doing some, you know, work to the desk kind of thing. Reprioritizing that's super valuable. Engaging, you know, lobbyists, contract people at federal levels. We've seen some success with that, but it pays dividends. Rachel's work and her government affairs work is all about developing relationships and connections to, even my participation in boards outside of the city is about developing those relationships to bring resources to back home.
We'll still continue to work on that side of things too.
You know, we're all pulling for it.
Making ask.
Yeah, yep.
So.
Yep. Someone will be giving some testimony.
Compared to our peers, we do really well. We do a lot. Most cities aren't doing what we're doing as far as getting into, you know, buying mill sites and redeveloping properties, and, you know, they're, you know, focused on other things. You know,
So the one thing that we have going for us is that watershed property. Don't ever let anybody try to get rid of that property ever, for the forest management piece of it, ever.
it's a wonderful asset.
Controlling our destiny.
Yep.
It gives the city to be able
Yep. That is one of
to appreciate the comment about inviting people, and I think it's the meetings that we've had. I said, oh, you know, we're raising water rates. Oh, good, the Girl Scouts are here today. It's gonna go well. And that tone of civility, just kind of like, oh, yeah, like that is good.
Yeah, might work, I don't know.
I like the idea of relighting up the 13 nights community booth that we did that for several years, where we, you know, early on in the waterfront project, we had a booth set up, and you know, if a counselor wants to join in on that and be a part of that, that's fantastic. It's really easy to do.
Yeah.
Say we sign up for shifts. Everybody has to do it.
Take a weekend, take two of you on a weekend, or, you know, well, I'd be happy to do that. Just developing those connections and relationships with the community for times get tough. And yeah, there's a lot of. So just the difference between the charter and hearing mixed things, but the charter establishes the authority to create rules and policies. So you can, the council rules, the governing policy are all resolutions of the city. Those are subject to change at your leisure. And you can change things any way you want, as long as it's not inconsistent with the charter.
I was gonna say, we get awful close on some of the resolutions coming in conflict with the charter. I've got a couple. We'll discuss it another time, because that will be a heated argument.
I would love to see that and point it out in the charter, but
I will, I got no problem with that.
discussion over that, but yeah, the control is yours. I mean, however you want to function and operate is entirely up to you. Whether that's a city manager form of government, or administrator, where you would have liaisons having a role where they're communication links to the department back to the council, or if they have some operational authorities, that I think we've proven that that's a little just, the optics of the staff looking up to who's my boss and who's in charge is really awkward, and it's uncomfortable for people. And we recognize that, kind of moved away from that to say, no, you're here for communications.
That was the whole purpose of that.
And that's in a healthy place. There's a lot of literature that talks about the city manager form of government, and how preferred that is, that the clear communications, the clear lines that are around that. But at the same time, any form can work. If you have the right people, you have the right cooperative spirit and attitude, it all can be healthy and that can work.
Will Rogers once said the best form of government is a good dictator. The problem is when they go sideways, it goes really sideways. And this is, as you say, almost any form of government will work if you got good people. And if you don't, almost any form of government is bad then if you don't.
And strong advocates. I like the
I'm falling asleep, sorry.
More.
Yeah.
Wake up.
Counselor Berkeley is too, I think.
Yeah.
Those really handling on us right now.
So I think this has been a good meeting as far as looking at everything, a little eye opener here. I think we need to have better relationships with one another. I'm just saying what I've learned. I'm not trying to direct anybody. I'm just saying it myself. And that also, I think through one of our strengths is partnerships, through partnerships and doing functions together, that we will build those relationships. Twofold, not only are we putting our city out there if we're together on 13 nights or functions like that, but we also will make partnerships with other, whether it be, maybe it's gonna be a Main Street that we're there supporting. And we're building that partnership, but it's also strengthening our relationship in that.
And our view for
Yes.
the public. and
Exactly.
the US.
So I think moving forward, I think that's a great idea is, whatever we can do this day of, look at Doug's dog, this day of
So jealous.
COVID, but I think it's gonna run its course real soon. Me personally, I wouldn't mind doing something soon as a council. Maybe we'll bring it up next council meeting and the meeting after that.
Take us fishing.
Kathy has brought to my attention, though, we will be discussing our Citizens Day next meeting, a little bit, just on vendors and stuff. Remember?
Huddle and break.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Eric?
Well, I did my part to bring business to St. Helens on Sunday. We took a trip to Astoria and went to movie beer there. Actually, I made two interesting things. Well, one, so I thought, what the heck, I had my cards along, and when I checked out, we went.
A survey, so when they're like,
You're ever looking to
I'm
expand your
sure I read
footprint?
the other survey comments.
We're developing our waterfront. Here's the card, give it to the owner. But then I had this, are you familiar with the band Cake?